Welcome to part 2, everybody. Sorry that there was a little mishap with that. I didn't realize it was going to take me this long to talk about this book. Should I have known? Yes, I should have. But did I think? The answer is no. So, all right, we're in the home stretch. This chapter is also very good and maybe my favorite in the book. I don't know why, but it is. So they're doing a little mock battle brief with Mira because obviously they're not there for a regular battle brief. Where's my pointing stick? Mira says, let's pretend that we've come across a newly fortified enemy outpost crossing our border. And Emery, who's not on the board, is like, we're supposed to pretend it just popped up overnight. And she's like, it's for the sake of the argument. Third year. Atos. And he says, what type of fortifications are there? Are we talking a haphazard wooden structure or something more substantial? And Riddick is like they had time to build a fortress overnight. It has to be wooden, right? And then Mira's like, you all are so fucking literal. Fine, let's just say they occupied a keep that's already established, stone and all. And Quinn is like, but they didn't call for help? Protocol calls for a distress signal this far into the mountains. They should have lit their distress beacon, alerting patrolling riders, at which time the dragons on patrol would have told all available dragons in the area. The very riders in this room would have mounted first as the reaction force, and the others would have woken from their rests, allowing the riders to prevent the loss of the keep in the first place. And Mira's like, look, everything you're taught at Biscayeth is like hypothetical, but reality is things happen, things don't always go according to plan, protocol slips, people slip, just happens. And she's like, how many of you all have been called out as third years? And Emery and Xaden both raise their hand, but Xaden's more like, the cool guy raise hand. And Dane is like, that's not right. We're never called into service before graduation. Tell that to Emery and Xaden, huh, Dane? Emery's like, yeah, all right. Just wait until next year. I can't count how many times we're the ones sitting in these very rooms in the Midland forts because their riders have been called to the front for an emergency. The color drains from Dane's face. Oh, geez. And Mira is like, okay, pretend these other riders don't exist and that we're the only squad available to take back the keep. Think of the power in this room. Think of what each individual rider brings to the table and how you'd use those powers in unison to conquer your objective. And Liam's like, but they don't teach that to first years. Mira kind of glances at Liam's wrist and she sees his rebellion relic. And since Xaden is the oldest of all the marked ones, none of the active riders have ever worked with marked ones before. Violet is sensing a little prejudice from Mira towards Liam, and Violet's kind of shoots Mira a look, and Mira, she widens her eyes a little bit because she's kind of shocked that Violet's friends with these people. And Mira's like, they might not teach you this battle strategy as first years because you're all busy trying to stay on your dragons. You had your first taste of strategy during squad battle and it's almost May, which means final war games should be beginning, right? And Dane is like, it's coming in 2 weeks. And she's like, good timing. Not all of you will survive if you're not prepared. And Mira's like, okay, let's try another tactic. She's like, who is in command? And then Dane is like, I'm in command. But then Liam, he's like, our wing leader is here. So I think that puts him in command. And then Xaden's like, it's okay. We can pretend I'm not here for the sake of the exercise. Give Atos here the position we all know he craves. And then Violet's like, don't be a dick. And then Xaden says in Violet's mind, like Taryn talks to her, he talks to her in her mind. And he says, you haven't even seen me start to be a dick. My head turns so fast that it swims, and my mouth drops open as I stare at the side of Xaden's face. That was his voice, in my fucking head. I swear I hear him laughing in my mind, though his lips are closed, tilting in that pulse-quickening smirk of his. And he says, you're staring. It's about to get awkward in 30 seconds if you don't stop. Violet, she doesn't know how to talk back to Xaden, so she's like, how? And he's like in her mind, he says, the same way you talk to Taryn and Sigale. We're all gloriously, annoyingly linked. This is just one of the perks. Though I'm starting to wish I tried it sooner. The look on your face is priceless. And I guess while this is all happening, everybody's just sitting and waiting for them to stop. But Dana's like, you're the wing leader. Be in command. And then Xaden says, I'm not even supposed to be here, but if it makes you feel better, for the purpose of war games, you'd be getting your orders from your section leader, Garrick Tavis, which he'd get from me. You'll be carrying out your maneuvers as a squad for the good of the wing. Just pretend I'm another member of your squad and use me as you wish, Atos. Violet takes a glance at Mira, and Mira's kind of like, what the fuck is going on between them? Dane's like, why the fuck are you even here? No offense, sir, but we weren't exactly expecting senior leadership on this trip. And Xaden says, you're more than aware that Sigale and Taryn are mated. And he's like, 3 days? You couldn't make it 3 days? And Violet's like, it has nothing to do with him. That's up to Taryn and Sigale. And then Xaden tells Violet through the bond, you never considered it was you I couldn't stay away from? I crook my right arm and jab it into Xaden's biceps. He doesn't mean that. Not when he's still adamant that kissing me was a mistake. And if he does, I'm not going there. And Xaden tells her, now, you'll give our little communication secret away if you can't keep from being so violent. And Dane is like, of course you rushed to defend him. Though how you forget that this guy wanted to kill you 6 months ago is beyond me. And Violet's like, I can't believe you went there. And Xaden's like, good job remaining professional, Atos. Really shows those leadership qualities to their best advantage. This is an iconic quote, but one of the writers down the table whistles low. Do you boys just want to whip it out and measure? It would be faster. Liam smothers a laugh, but his shoulders shake. And Mira is like, enough! And they're like, oh, come on, Sorengale. This is the best entertainment we've had in ages. And Violet's like, oh, fine. I will be the mature one in this situation. Mira has the ability to extend the shield if the wards are down. So the first thing I would do is send her to scout the area with Tyne. We need to know if we're dealing with infantry or griffin riders. And Mira's like, good. Now let's assume there are griffins. And then Violet tells Dane, she's like, do you want to do your job? I mean, how you can forget that your squad leader is beyond me. Yikes. And then Dane asks Quinn, can you astral project from the back of your dragon? And she's like, yeah. He's like, okay, then I would have you project into the fortress to check for signs of weakness and have you report back. Same with Liam. We'd use your farsight to see if you can locate where the griffin riders are and if there are any traps. And Mira's like, good. The weaknesses are the wooden gate and the Navarian citizens they have captive in the dungeons. And Riddick is like, so much for blasting the whole place. Dane asks Emery, you're an air wielder, right? So that means that you can shape your dragon's flames and then move and mold them into the occupied parts of the keep so the dragonfire doesn't burn the civilians, like it just burns the enemy. So that's pretty cool. And then Quinn asks Dane, what's your signet, Atos? And he's like, above your pay grade. And Violet's asking herself, she's like, is the quadrant really making Dane keep the memory reading secret? Had him reaching for my head the day Amber burned been a loss of control? How has he gotten this far without telling anyone what his signet is? And Dane's like, any other ideas? And Violet's like, sure. You forget that you have an incredibly powerful shadow wielder at your disposal and you ask him to black out the whole area so nobody sees. And Mira's like, she's not wrong. He's like, you can do that? And then Xaden, to flex, he like blacks out the whole room that they're in. And Violet, she gets a little stressed by this, but out of the shadows, she feels a little tendril caress her cheek. And he's like, don't worry, Violet, it's just me. And Violet's kind of thinking, what was it that Sigale said? That signets are kind of a reflection of who you are at your core. And she's like, that makes sense. Xaden has secrets. Mira is overprotective. And Dane needs to know everybody's business. And Xaden's like, I can surround this entire outpost, but I'd rather not freak everybody out. And Xaden tells Violet, I hope you didn't get any ideas when we were in the dark there. And then Violet asks Taryn, how do I get him out of my head? And he's like, you'll get used to it. And Violet's like, is this normal for mated pairs and their riders? And he's like, for some, it's a great advantage in battle. Anyways, after this whole weird ass charade, Mira pulls Violet, Dane, and Xaden. She's like, you three, stay behind after class. And Mira puts like a sound shield around the door so nobody can hear their conversation. And Dane's like, sound shield. Nice. And Mira says, shut up. I don't know what bug has crawled up your ass, Dane Atos, but have you forgotten that you're a squad leader? And Dane is like, Mira. And Mira's like, it's Lieutenant Sorengale. You're blowing it, Dane. And I know how badly you want his job next year. Don't forget that we've grown up about 10 feet apart. And you are blowing it. Why? Because you're pissed that Violet bonded his dragon's mate? And Dana's like, he's the worst possible thing for her. And she's like, oh, I'm not arguing that, but there's nothing we can do. And this little tiff that you guys got going on is fucking up your squad. If I can tell it in 10 minutes, then they are definitely noticing it also. You two have been best friends since you were 5 years old. Figure your shit out. But Mira is not done. She says, and for you, is this what she can expect next year? And he says, Atos being an asshole? Probably. And Mira's like so pissed. Mira says that mated dragons typically choose riders within the same year because of this whole problem. She says, you cannot expect your assigned wing or her instructors to let you both fly off every 3 days. And Xaden's like, Wasn't my choice. Violet butts in and she's like, what are we supposed to do? Tell the giant flame-throwing dragons how it's supposed to be? And Mira's like, yes. Because you can't live this way, Violet. You'll be the one who ends up missing essential training because you're too busy flying back and forth to wherever he's stationed because he's the more powerful of you two right now. But if you don't get to focus on your training, then that's how it'll always be. You won't ever become who Taryn can push you to be. Is that what you're after, Ryerson? And Violet's like, Mira, you're wrong about him. And she says, listen to me. He might wield shadows, Violet, but give him his way and you'll become one. Killing someone isn't the only way to destroy them. Keeping you from reaching your potential seems like a great path to the retribution he swore against our mother. Think long and hard. How well do you even really know him? Violet in her mind, she's like, kind of right. And Mira's like, that's what I thought. Do you even know why he hates our mother so much? Why kids like him are put on the parapet? And Zayden's like, I'm right here. Okay, in case you didn't notice. And she's like, you're kind of hard to miss. And he's like, you're not listening. I am here. Taryn didn't drag her back to Bascaeth. He didn't break through her shields and pour his emotions into her. He didn't demand she fly across the fucking kingdom. Your sister is still right here. I'm the one who left my post, my position, and my executive officer in charge of my wing. She's not missing out on shit. And Mira's like, and next year, whenever you're a brand new lieutenant, what shit is she gonna miss out on then? And then Violet's like, we'll figure it out. Mira, he's taken every spare minute he has to train me on the mat for challenges and take me flying in hopes I'll finally figure out how to keep my damn seat without Taryn holding me in place. And she's like, you can't keep your seat? And Violet's like, no. And she's like, how the hell can you not? And Violet's like, 'cause I'm not you. And Mira's like, but you look so much stronger now. My joints and muscles are stronger because Imogen makes me lift these horrible weights, but that doesn't fix me. And Mira's like, no, I didn't mean like that, Vi. You're not anything that needs to be fixed. I just didn't know you couldn't hold your seat. Why didn't you tell me? And Violet's like, because there's nothing that anybody can do about it. And Zayden's like, she's getting better. The first few weeks were disastrous. And Zayden to Mira, he's like, look, you don't have to trust me. And she's like, good, because I don't. All that power in the hands of someone with your history is bad enough, but to know your dragons are so tangled up that you can't be more than 3 days from Violet is unacceptable in every possible way I can think. And then she goes completely still, her eyes unfocusing. And Taryn tells Violet that there's a drift of griffins headed this way. And Mira's like, fuck, the wards are down. You have to go. You have to get out of here. It's not safe for you. You gotta go. If you love me, Violet, you'll leave. And Mira tells Zayden, get her out of here. And Zayden goes to Mira and he's like, even if you don't trust me, I'm the best weapon you have. And she's like, can't argue with that, but you're also the best weapon that she has, meaning Violet. Tyne thinks we have about 20 minutes until they get here, so you need to get her out. And Mira tells Violet, she's like, I love you, Violet. Don't die. I would hate to be an only child. And Violet is obviously freaking out because she wants to help her sister and she doesn't want her sister to die. She's got a little PTS. So she's really fighting Dane and Zayden into staying. Violet needs to go get her backpack. And Zayden's like, can I trust you to go get it? And she's like, yes. So Violet's got her pack. She goes out into the hallway where Zayden is there with his pack. She feels kind of guilty because his pack looks significantly smaller than the one he came with. So she's like, I don't want to even think about all the things he has to leave behind in order to get me out faster. So Zayden is making Violet climb up the turret because it's too dangerous to leave outside of the fortress walls. So she's climbing, and as a last-ditch effort, Violet is like, Dane, you gonna let me stay? And he's like, sorry, Violet. He's like, for once, Ryerson and I agree. It's not just you we have to get out, Violet. It's every other first year and student that's here. He's like, do you want their blood to be on your hands? And Violet's like, this isn't about me. So Riddick, Quinn, and Liam have already left. And Zayden is like, you're next, Atos. And he's like, Vi. And he's like, that's an order. I've got her. Go. And Violet's like, go, come on. And Dane is like, I'm trusting you to get her out. And Zayden's like, there's a lot of that going around today. So now get on your dragon so I can get her on hers. And Taryn is on his way to where their little pickup zone is. And Violet tells Zayden, I can't do this. The others are gone. Call it the favor you owe me. I don't care. We can stay. I just can't leave her here. It's wrong. And it's something she'd never do to me. I have to stay for her. I just have to. And then it says in her mind, there's so much compassion, so much understanding in his eyes that when he lets go of my waist, I think he might just let me stay. Then his hands are on my cheeks, sliding back to cup the base of my neck as he brings his mouth to mine. So they kiss. And it says, gods, it's not just as good as I'd been fantasizing about remembering that night. It's so much better. He was careful with me against that wall, but there was nothing hesitant about the way he lays claim to my mouth. And he says, leave for me, Violet. And Taryn is like, almost there. And then Violet's like, Xaden's been stalling to give Taryn and Sigale time to arrive. My heart sinks like a rock, pinning my feet in place. I will hate you for this. And he's like, I can live with that. And then Taryn takes Violet and they fly off. I look over my shoulder and see Xaden on Sigale approaching quickly, and farther behind them, hundreds of feet below, a dozen griffins envelop the keep. So they're back at the school. Violet has been camping outside of Professor Markham's office waiting for word about her sister, and it's been 2 days since they left. She said it took a day to fly back and then a long day of nothing. So she's been waiting for a while. Xaden shows up with some coffee and he's like, Sigale says you haven't slept. She's like, and Violet, in her mind, she tells Taryn, stop telling Sigale my sleeping habits. And then Xaden says, I haven't slept well since the night my father left Orisha to declare the secession. And then Violet's like, that was 6 years ago. He stares at his coffee. I don't even know how old you are now. And Xaden says, 23. My birthday is in March. So I'm thinking Xaden's an Aries, guys. I'm thinking he is. Okay, he's a late March. I just feel it. And then Violet's like, yeah, mine is in. And he's like, July. So I think she's late July, and I think she's Leo. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Oh, jeez. And he's like, I know. I made it my mission to know everything about you after the parapet. She's like, because that's not creepy. They're having a little heart-to-heart, and Violet's like, when did you decide that you weren't going to kill me? And he's like, maybe it was when I saw Orin holding a knife to your throat. Or maybe it was when I realized the bruises on your neck were fingerprints and I wanted to kill them all over again just so I could do it slowly. Maybe it was the first time I recklessly kissed you, or when I realized I'm fucked because I can't stop thinking about doing more than just kissing you. Does it even matter when? As long as it's changed between us? And he says this in her mind. And she says, don't do that. And he's like, don't do what? Tell you I can't get you out of my head or speak directly into yours either. You could learn to do it too. Come on, give it a try. And she's like, okay, gonna go into my mental archives because it's her safe space. And she sees Taryn's energy and it's like bright orange. And then she sees Andarna's energy, which is like golden. And it says, and there, swirling along the edge of the roofline, is a shadow of sparkling night. Xaden. And then Dane walks in. Dane, he's always cock blocking. He's like, guess you two had the same idea. How long have you been waiting? And Xaden's like, not long. And Violet's like, hours. And he's like, Jesus Christ, Violet, are you hungry? Do you want to get breakfast? And then Xaden tells Violet in her mind, no, dumbass, she doesn't, obviously. And then Violet says to Xaden, in his mind, knock that the fuck off. And he's like, hey, look who figured it out. Professor Markham finally shows up and he's like, to what do I owe the pleasure? And Violet's like, just tell me if she's dead. And he's like, I can't give out classified information. Like, if there's anything to report, it will be discussed during battle brief. And Violet's like, we were there. If it's classified, like, we already know about it. So, and Markham's like, it's hardly appropriate for me to. And Violet's like, she's my sister. I deserve to know if she's alive. And I deserve to not hear it in a room full of writers. And he's like, fine. There was considerable damage to the outpost, but we lost no riders in Montserrat. And Violet's like, oh my God. And she falls and hugs Dane. And then Dane is like, she's fine, Violet. She's fine. Mira's alive. And she breaks from her hug with Dane, and then Xaden is gone. All right, it's time for 21 questions with Xaden. All right. First question, do you have siblings? He says, no. Second question, favorite food? His answer, chocolate cake. How do you know Liam? Fostered. That one was a test because we already knew that. So she was making sure that Xaden was telling her the truth. And she asks, where are your scars from? No answer. Okay, so some time has passed now and Violet is sensing a little shift in the energy, okay? Battle briefs are getting more sus. Xaden has been canceling their lessons. Dane has been weird as fuck. And Professor Carr is getting more and more anxious that Violet's signet still hasn't appeared. Because if the signet doesn't appear, I don't know if I already said this, but if the signet doesn't appear within 6 months of being able to channel, that's usually the time period that it takes for you to like explode from the power not having a release. So, yeah. And she's like, I even feel like Taryn is being a little secretive. So, it's the first battle of War Games. And while their whole squad is in formation, she asks Xaden in her mind, she's like, are we on defense or offense? And he's like, little busy right now. And she's like, oh no, am I distracting you? And he's like, yes. She's like, come on, you're taking forever over there. Give a girl a hint. And he's like, both. And so she's like, defense and offense? Should be interesting. And they find out that the challenge is to defend their flag, but also capture this crystal egg that First Wing is guarding. So their strat is to keep the flag moving, so there's never like one target for Fourth Wing to hit, you know? Also, whenever Violet was asking Xaden about whether they were on defense or offense, she says that his voice was a little muted. She's like, does that mean next year, like, I'm not even going to be able to hear him because we're so far physically? So they're going to their dragons for war games. And what's this? Taryn has a saddle attached to him? So Xaden has made a saddle for Violet so she can stay on Taryn easily. And she's like, oh, this is so embarrassing. Everyone will know I can't keep my seat. He's like, hate to break it to you, but everybody already knows that. And so she's like, okay, fine. And she's like, wow, when he makes you a saddle so you don't fall off your dragon and die. She's like, oh my God, Taryn, you let him put that on you? And he's like, yes. And Xaden's like, yeah, you're going to have to let me know how it is, because he wouldn't let me ride him to like test it out for myself. So if you got any notes, just let me know. So yeah, saddle's working great. Taryn can take it off himself. That's nice. And they're flying around trying to get that crystal egg. And Jack, he's back in commission. So Violet and Taryn are up here looking down, and Violet sees Jack and Liam fighting. And Jack jumps onto Liam's dragon's back, which Liam's dragon's name is Day. And Jack stabs Liam in the side with his sword like this. And then, so his sword is through him. And then Jack kicks Liam off of his sword. And so now Liam is falling off of his dragon's back and just like free falling down. Violet is screaming. Taryn is rushing, but there's not going to be enough time. And so thankfully Andarna is near. Violet uses Andarna's power again and freezes time. Whenever Violet freezes time, she can choose what to freeze and unfreeze. So she leaves Taryn and herself in motion and everything else frozen. So Taryn does catch Liam. So now Liam's on the back of Taryn. And so now Jack is standing at the top of the tower, just being a dickhead, you know? He is celebrating his victory. And Violet looks at Jack's sword, and it still has Liam's blood on it. And she sees it dripping off of his sword. Rhiannon's dragon, Fierg, appears from below. And Taryn slows just enough to transfer Liam to Rhiannon. And she's like, he's alive. He has to be. It's the only outcome I'll accept. And it says, a growing power sizzles in my chest as I lock my gaze on Jack. I can see the sick pleasure on his face as we fly closer, the blood that drips from his sword. Liam's blood. An enormous dragon appears on the horizon. I don't even need to look or even open my feelings to know it's Xaden, but I can't spare a moment for him. Taryn is climbing faster than we've ever climbed, and power is racing along my skin, scorching my blood. If this is it, if my power is backlashing, then I'll be damned if I don't take that asshole with me. Taryn is fireproof, but not Jack. Taryn charges the tower, his wings beating faster and faster, and I instinctually throw my hands forward as though I could project all this power lashing within me toward the enemy who just tried to kill my friend, who has done his best to kill me at every opportunity. That sizzle of magic grows to a lethal, swirling vortex of energy, and though my feet are still firmly grounded, the power rises to a breaking point and the roof of my archives disintegrates. Power crackles above me, swirls around me, wraps along my feet below me. I am the sky and the power of every storm that has ever been. I am infinite. Pretty cool. A scream rips from my throat just as lightning splits the sky with a terrifying crack of thunder. The bluish streak of silver death slams into the tower, and sparks flare as it explodes in a blast of stone. Taryn banks to avoid the blast, and I pivot in the saddle. Jack falls down the mountainside in an avalanche of rock I know he can't survive. My hand trembles. From the way Bade cries beneath us, she knows it too, because Bade is now a girl. Just kidding. Rebecca Garro said that was a typo, so Bade is still a guy. My hand trembles as I sheath the clean dagger at my ribs. The only blood to be found is on the rocks below, though I look at my hands as though they should be covered in death. Taryn roars with the unmistakable sound of pride. Lightning wielder. Really fucking cool, Violet. And also, now the whole trio is knocked out. All right, amazing. Amazing news. No more enemies. No more enemies left. They land back in the flight field. Violet is feeling some guilt about killing Jack, but Liam is alive, so amazing. And Sawyer says, lightning? Damn, Sorengale, you've been holding out on us. And you know, this moment is really amazing, so Dane has to come and ruin it all. Just kidding. But he's like, Violet, that was you with the lightning strike? The one that took down the tower? And she's like, yeah, I've never seen anything like it. I don't think there's been a lightning wielder in more than a century. Violet? And she's like, I killed him. And he's like, I know. And he kisses at the top of her head. And if you don't want to use that kind of power again, you don't have to. Xanden's like walking in fast. He says, get the fuck away with her with that nonsense. Xaden pushes Dane's chest and tugs me out of his arms and then grips my shoulders, turning me to face him. You killed Barlow. And he's like, lightning. Your signet is lightning, isn't it? He looks at me with such intensity as though my answer is the key to whatever he needs. Yes. His jaw flexes and his head bob once. I thought so, but I wasn't sure until I saw you take that tower down. And she's like, he thought so? What the fuck does that mean? And he's like, listen to me, Sorengale. The world is a better place without Barlow in it. We both know that. Do I wish I'd been the one to end his miserable life? Absolutely. But what you did will save countless others. He was nothing more than a bully and was only going to get worse as he grew more powerful. His dragon will choose another rider when she's ready, except it's he. I'm glad he's dead. I am glad that you killed him. And she's like, I didn't mean to. I was just so fucking mad. And we just caught Liam. I just thought my relic was backlashing finally. She was like, it was too close, Xaden. It was too close. I had to do something. I don't want this. Rhiannon can move objects through space. Dane has retrocognition. And Dane's like, hey. And Xaden's like, you think I didn't know that already? And she's like, Kaori can bring his imagination to life. Sawyer can bend metal. Mira can extend the wards. Everyone has a signet that isn't just useful for battle. They're tools for good in the world. And what the hell am I, Xaden? I'm a fucking weapon. And Dane's like, you don't have to use your power, Vi. And Xaden says, stop fucking coddling her. She's not a child. She's a full-grown woman, a writer. Start treating her like one and at least have the decency to give her the truth. You think Melgren or any other general, including her own mother, is going to let her sit on a power like this? It's not like she can hide it, not the way she just demolished one of the practice forts. And Dane's like, you just want her to be like you, a cold-blooded killer. Soon you'll be telling her that it's all right, that she'll get used to the killing. Xaden glares at Dane and he says, the blood in my veins is as warm as yours, Atos, and if it's my job you want next year, then you better start understanding that you never get used to killing, but you do understand that it's necessary. And then he looks at Violet and he's like, this isn't primary school. This is war. And you heard me say it once before, but the ugly truth those not on the front of the lines choose to forget is that there are always body bags in war. You might not like it. You might even loathe it, but it's power like yours that saves lives. And Violet's like, by killing people? If Sigale is right and signets reflect who we are at our core, then I'm exactly as Xaden nicknamed me. Violence. By defeating invading armies before they get the chance to hurt civilians. You want to keep Rhiannon's nephew alive in that little border village? This is how. You want to keep Mira alive when she's behind enemy lines? This is how. You're not just a weapon, Sorengale. You are the weapon. You train this ability, own it, and you'll have the power to defend an entire kingdom. Fuck yeah. And he's like, thank you for saving Liam. He's important to me. And then she's like, you don't have to thank, and he's already gone. And then Rhiannon's like, you do have the weirdest relationship. And she's like, we're not in a relationship. And Violet looks at Taryn and Taryn tells her, go. But do not wallow in guilt, Silver One. Whatever you feel is natural. Allow yourself to feel it, but then let it go. The Winged Leader made a valid point. With a signet like that, you are the best hope the kingdom has against the hordes of evil that seek to harm it. Rest, and I will see you tomorrow. I'll get my own saddle off. And then Rhiannon's like, you two are most definitely in a relationship. I just can't figure out if it's the opposites attract partnership that has you two bearing claws, or the slow lethal burn of scalding sexual tension. What? What kind of sentence is that, Rhiannon? Now tell me how the hell you two move that fast out there. And Violet's like, what do you mean? And she's like, when Liam was falling, Fierg and I flew as fast as we could, and I knew we'd be too slow given our angle and speed, and I thought it looked like you were high above him 1 second and had him in the next. I've never seen a dragon fly that fast. It's like I blinked and missed it. And now Violet's feeling guilty again because she's keeping more secrets from Rhiannon, and Taryn is like, don't feel guilty that you can't tell her. This secret belongs to dragonkind, not you. No one has the right to risk our hatchlings. Not even you, Silver One. And she's like, Taryn is really fast. And she's like, and thank the gods for it. Zanal must really love Liam cheating death twice today. And then Violet's like, but it wasn't Liam who cheated death. It was me. And I can't help but wonder if somewhere, on some plane of existence, Malik sits on his throne, angry that I stole a soul from his grasp. But then again, I gave him Jack's. Of course, it might have broken mine forever. So she's really sad that she killed Jack. So Violet's just in her room later that day. She's throwing daggers at like a practice person. And then Xaden knocks on her door and she's like, come in. And he's like, are you imagining that that's me? They're like talking, whatever. She's like, I'm not mad that Jack's dead. We both know he wanted to kill me since Parapet, and eventually he would have. I'm mad that him dying changes me. And she's like, what's wrong with me? Any other writer would be thrilled. And he's like, you've never been like any other writer, probably because you never wanted to be here. And she's like, none of you wanted to be here, and you're all doing just fine. And he's like, most of us would burn this place to the ground if we had the option, but every marked one wants to be here because it's our only path for survival. It's not the same for you. You wanted to record the battles, not be in them. There's nothing wrong with you. You get to be angry that you killed a man today. You get to be angry that man tried to kill your friend. You get to feel however you want within these walls, but not outside them. We're writers, so do whatever you need to get it out. You want to yell? Yell at me. You want to hit something? Hit me. I can take it. Oh God. And then he's like, come on, show me what you got. And then Violet kisses him. All right, this is the sex chapter. I'm just gonna read some of the cringier quotes because I think they're kind of funny, but there's nothing really like important in this scene, I don't think, but I'll give you some snippets. Xaden's all like, Violet, this isn't what you want. And Violet's like, yeah, it is. That goes on for like a while, and then she's like, do you just not want me? And he's like, you walk into a room and I can't look away. I get anywhere near you and this is what happens. Instantly hard. Fucking hell. I can barely think when you're around. And he's all like, I don't want to take advantage of you because of your shit day. And she's like, bro, I'm literally begging for it. And she's like, I don't want to think. I just want to feel. So Xaden like loses control with Violet, which that's like the Xaden appeal, I guess. They fuck, they destroy her room, blah, blah, blah. Okay. As they're fucking, like, Violet is, like, shooting lightning outside. And, like, shadows are, like, ripping around the room. So, I guess everyone will always know when they fuck. Because it would be, like, a lightning storm. Oh, my God. I don't know. You guys, stop. I would give the Fourth Wing smut, like, a solid, like, C+. C+. It's not unreadable, but it's not amazing. I don't know what would be considered amazing, personally. Maybe smut will always be like living at max, like a B. Like, I don't know if any smut would ever be like A+, but anyways, so it's over. Violet sees Xaden's scars again because he's shirtless, and she's got some courage to ask about them again. He tells her that he received 107 lashes to symbolize each of the marked ones. Apparently, he was offered a deal to either take personal responsibility for each of the 107 marked ones, or they kill them all. So Xaden was the one that bargained for the marked ones' lives. Apparently, if any of them betray Navarre, then Xaden's life is forfeit. So that is what Lily was talking about earlier with Violet whenever he says that he owes Xaden his life because Xaden put his life on the line so they could all have a chance to live. And Violet is like, oh, OMG, that's so kind of you. Xaden, later on, he's like, don't fall for me, Violet. And after that, she's kind of just in thought, okay? Contemplating her feelings and such. And he's like, violence? And she's like, why did you think I was a lightning wielder? And Xaden says, I thought you did it the first night Taryn channeled power to you, but I wasn't sure, so I didn't say anything. And she's like, really? When? The first time you kissed me. Yup. So when Violet wakes up, Xaden is not there anymore, and she is headed to Professor Carr because he wants to get a look-see at this lightning wielding. So Violet is like, how is Andarna? Because remember, she gets really sleepy after she does the little time-stoppy thing. And Taryn is like, she's okay. She's just sleeping. She's resting. And she's like, okay, good. Professor Carr tells her, don't worry, it won't be cold for long. According to what I read last night, this particular ability has the power to overheat your system, hence outside in the cold. Plus, there's not much to burn up here, is there? And Professor Carr says, it's always intriguing how nature finds the balance. And Violet's like, I'm not sure what you mean. He's like, this kind of power found in someone so, would you call yourself fragile? And she's like, yeah, I am what I am, so just fucking say it. He says, it's not an insult, cadet. It's a balance. In the course of my duties, I found a correlation of sorts that keeps a system of checks on power. Yours seems to be your body. And then Taryn kind of grumbles at Carr. And he's like, your dragon doesn't trust me. And considering he's the most powerful of them in the quadrant at the moment, but Taryn is like, but not the continent. That means you don't trust me either, Cadet Sorengale. Why is that? I told you, he's like pretty straight up. And she's like, other than you calling me frail? I was there that day in the courtyard whenever you snapped Jeremiah's neck. And then Carr says, yes, well, he was in a considerable amount of panic, and it's widely known that intensics aren't allowed to live. I ended his suffering before he could see the end coming. And Violet is like, I'll never understand why mind reading is a death sentence. He says, because knowledge is power, and as a general's daughter, you should know that. We can't have someone walking around with unfettered access to classified material. They're a security risk to the entire kingdom. I feel like it's fitting to mention who has an orange dragon because I told you that they're a little unhinged, and Carr has an orange dragon. So just note that, guys. And Taryn also tells us that since Atos's power is limited to touch, that it makes him a little bit more controllable. And Carr's like, now, you don't have to trust me, and you can even wield from your seat on your dragon if you'd like, but I hope you believe me when I tell you I have no plans on killing you, Cadet Sorengale. Losing an asset like you would be a tragedy for the war effort. And the fact that you bonded Taryn makes you and Ryerson the most coveted pair of riders this kingdom has seen in far too long. If I could offer a piece of advice, keep your loyalties clear. You and Ryerson both have exceptional, lethal power that any rider would be envious of, but together, you would be a formidable enemy who command could simply not afford to let exist. Do you understand what I'm saying? And the Violet's like, Navarre is my home, Professor. I will give my life to defend it, just like every Sorengale who has ridden before me. He's like, excellent. Now let's get to work. The sooner you can contain the lightning, the sooner we can both stop freezing our asses off. And she's like, good point. You just want me to... And he's like, yep, anywhere in this mountain range, go ahead. And she's like, I'm not really sure what I did to call it before. It was an emotional reaction. And he's like, interesting. And he's like writing it down. And he's like, you wielded lightning besides yesterday's display during the war games? And she's like, a few times. You help. And both times were the result of emotional reactions? And Taryn is like snorting. And she's like, yes. He's like, okay, well then start there. Ground in your power and try to feel whatever it is you were feeling. And Taryn, he says, should I get the wing leader? And he's laughing at her. And she's like, shut up. And then Xaden comes in her mind. He's like, problems? And why are you so far away? Because he can tell how far away she is. And she's like, training with Carr. And how do you know how far away I am? And he's like, get stronger in wielding and you'll be able to do it too. There's nowhere in existence you could go that I wouldn't find you, Violence. And she's like, right now I'd settle for wielding some lightning. Carr is staring at me and it's about to get really fucking awkward if I can't figure out how to... And then Xaden, stop guys, I hate this. Xaden puts like a mental image of them fucking like in her mind. And then so she wields some lightning. And Professor Carr's like, good job. And Violet's like, I can't believe you just did that. And Xaden's like, you're welcome. Violet says, my cheeks are flaming hot as I lift the backs of my hands to my skin. And Carr's like, see, I told you. The last lightning wielder said it made them overheat. Now do it again. And Taryn is like laughing. She like focuses more on like how the power feels in her body coming out than what triggered it. So she's able to like wield again. And Professor Carr's like, maybe try aiming it this time. Just remember to not exhaust the physical strength with which you control the power. No one wants to see you burn out. A power like Taryn's will eat you alive if you can't contain it. Lightning strikes 5 more times before I'm exhausted, and none of it hits where I was aiming. This is going to be harder than I thought. The next day, Xaden comes to Violet's room to help her clean up because they destroyed it during sexy time. Violet's getting a little insecure about this whole Xaden thing after they had sex, and she is needing some validation. And she says, tell me something real. Like, it literally says that. He's like what? And she's like where you were that night I found you in the courtyard. Remember after Violet burned Orly's things and she saw Xaden, Bodhi, and Garrick in the courtyard? And he's kind of like apprehensive. And she's like, please, I promise I won't tell anyone. And he's like, okay, we were at Athabine. That's all you get. No more questions. And they're picking up Violet's books because they just like destroyed everything in here. And they pick up Fables of the Baron. And what's this? A note? And it says... My Violet, by the time you find this, you'll most likely be in the scribe quadrant. Remember that folklore is passed from one generation to the next to teach us about our past. If we lose it, we lose the links to our past. It only takes one desperate generation to change history, even erase it. I know you'll make the right choice when the time comes. You have always been the best of both your mother and me. Love, Dad. And Xaden's like, that's cryptic. And she's like, yeah, he got a little cryptic after Brennan died. Losing my brother made my father even more reclusive. I only really got to spend time with him because I was always in the archives studying to be a scribe. The pages flutter as I flip through stories of an ancient kingdom that spanned from ocean to ocean and a great war among 3 brothers who fought to control the magic in this mystical land. Some of the fables tell stories of the first writers who learned to bond with dragons and how those bonds could turn on the writer if they tried to consume too much power. Others talk of a great evil that spread across the land as man became corrupted by dark magic and turned into creatures known as Venin, who created flocks of winged creatures called wyvern and scourged the land of all magic in the thirst for more power. Another talks about the dangers of wielding power from the ground instead of the skies, as one could easily start drawing magic from the earth and eventually be driven mad. One of the purposes of the fables is to teach children about the dangers of too much power. No one wants to become a Venin. They're the monsters that hide beneath our beds when we have nightmares, and we certainly never want to try to control magic without a dragon to ground us. But that's all they are, children's bedtime stories. So why did my dad leave me this cryptic note and hide it inside of this book? And Zayden's like, what do you think he was trying to tell you? And Violet's like, I don't know. Every fable in this book is about how too much power corrupts, so maybe he felt someone in leadership was corrupt. I glance up at Zayden and joke. I certainly wouldn't be surprised if General Melgren ripped a mask off one day and revealed he was a terrifying Venin. That man has always given me the creeps. And Zayden chuckles. And he's like, my dad used to say Venin were biding their time in the barrens, and one day they were coming to get us if we didn't eat all our vegetables. He said one day there would be no magic left in the kingdom if we weren't careful. And Violet's like, I'm sorry. But Zayden is visibly tense, so she's like, I better just change the subject. So she's like, so what mess should we tackle first? And Zayden's like, I have another idea with how we should spend our time. So he tries to have sex with her again. And she's like, look, I know you said not to fall for you, but if we keep like having sex, that's gonna happen. I don't think I can separate sex from emotion when it comes to you. We're already too close for that, and if we hook up again, I'm eventually gonna fall for you. And Zayden's like, you won't fall for me. You don't know me, not at my core. And she's like, I know enough, and we'd have all the time in the world to figure it out if you'd stop acting like such an emotional chicken shit and just admit that you're going to fall for me too if we keep this up. And she's like, there's no way he would have designed that saddle, spent all that time training me to fight and fly if he didn't feel something. But here's the thing. You don't get to dictate how I feel. You might give the orders out there, but not in here. You don't get to tell me we can fuck, but I can't fall for you. That's not fair. You can only respect what I choose to do. So we're not doing this again until I want to risk my heart. And if I fall, then that's my problem, not yours. You're not responsible for my choices. Fast forward a couple days maybe, and it's Reunification Day, which is essentially the anniversary of the Battle of Orisha. So it's the day that marks the end of the rebellion. Kind of a touchy day for Violet because it's the anniversary of Brennan's death, and also a touchy day for Zayden because it's the anniversary of his dad's death. So just a touchy day in general for all the marked ones. But obviously, since they're in Navarre, it's like a big celebration. There's going to be a dinner later, a little party. They're in battle brief now, and Violet, she's just not paying attention. She just talks to Zayden, and she's like, take me to bed, I guess, to distract herself. And he's like, might be a little awkward in front of all these people. And she's like, might be worth it. What? And he's like, I haven't changed my mind, Violence. There's no future for us. And she's like, graduation's 10 days away. And he's like, don't remind me. And she's like, are you seriously going to leave Beskaya without? And he's like, yes. And while they're talking, like, Deborah is just like having class in the background. And he says, whatever you're thinking can wait until there's not a room of people between us. And Violet is like, is there someone else? Because she's like remembering Imogen and how she was looking at Zayden in the sparring gym. He's like, I'm not having this discussion with you right now. Pay attention. Violet is like, is it Imogen? I'm gonna be sick. And he says, for fuck's sake, Violence. And she's like, is it? I know we said we weren't going there again, but at least tell me. And then Zayden says out loud, like in front of the whole class, he says, Sorengale. And then she's like, and Deborah's like, yes, Ryerson? And he's like, if reinforcements were unavailable, I would have asked for Mir Sorengale to temporarily transfer. The wards are strong at Montserrat, and with her signet, she could reinforce the weaknesses until other riders could arrive to strengthen those wards. She's like, good idea. And what riders are the most logical choice to help rebuild the wards in this particular mountain pass? And Violet's like, 3rd years. 3rd years are taught to build wards, and at this point in the year, they're leaving anyway. May as well send them early so they can be of use. So they're having a little tiff. So later that night, Liam is escorting Violet to the reunification day celebration thing. And then Violet realizes that Liam is escorting her to the reunification day celebration thing. And she's like, oh my God, Liam, I'm so sorry. Like, let's leave. Like, you shouldn't have to be here. This is fucked up. Like, they're literally celebrating the death of your mother. And he's like, well, they're also kind of celebrating the death of your brother. So I'm fine. Don't even worry. And Violet's like, we're good. You don't have to stay. Nobody's going to knife me in front of my mother. And he's like, I'm pretty sure a lot of people would knife you, considering it has a good chance of killing Finn Ryerson's son. Everybody at the party is like gawking at Liam's rebellion relic. And Violet's like, Brennan would hate all of this. He was more about getting the work done than celebrating its completion. And he's like, yeah, sounds like... And she says, his words die. And I squeeze his arm tighter as I note the separating crowd before us. And King Tory, General Sorengale, and General Melgren are like walking towards Violet, I think. And Violet's like, go. And he's like, when your greatest danger approaches? I think not. And then she's like, Your Majesty? And King Tory says, your mother tells me you bonded not one, but two exceptional dragons. And then Melgren says, yes, she's quite confident in your power. And Violet's like, I would not say the same at this time. I'm still learning how to wield. And her mom's like, don't be so modest, daughter. From what her professors say, they've only seen a gift this powerful a few times in the last decade, in Brennan and the Ryerson boy. And King Tory asks Liam what his gift is, and he's like, Farsight, your majesty. And then Melgren's eyes go to Liam's rebellion relic, and he's like, Mari? As in Colonel Mari's son? And Liam's like, yes, General, though I was mostly brought up by Duke Lindell at Tervain. He's like, ah, yes, Lindell is a good man, a loyal man. And then Liam is like, I have him to thank for my fortitude, Majesty. So he knows how to play this game. And then Melgren is like, tell me, where is the Ryerson boy? I'd like to lay eyes on him every once in a while, just to make sure he's not causing any trouble. And Violet's like, no trouble. He's our wing leader, actually. He saved my life when we were on the front lines at Montserrat. And then Violet's mom tells General Melgren that Violet and Xaden's dragons are mated. So she's like, she's grown quite close to him out of necessity. And King Tory is like, that's excellent. It's amazing to have a Sorengale on the lookout for us, in case, I don't know, he tries to start another war. And Violet, in her mind, she's like, Melgren is fully capable of seeing the outcome of any such absurdity, yet he stares at Liam and me with unnerving focus. And Violet's like, I can assure you, he's loyal. And then King Tory is like, where are they? I asked that they all be here, those marked ones. And then Violet lies for Xaden and says that she saw him a little earlier. But it's not technically a lie, because she did see him earlier in Battle Brief, but... General Mommy is like, oh look, there's Dane Atos. I'm sure he'd love if you said hi. So they leave. And then Violet tells Liam, she's like, I'm gonna kill Xaden for making you come to this. And he's like, Xaden didn't make me come. And she's like, what? And Liam's like, he'd never asked this of me. Never asked this of anyone. But I told him I would keep you safe. So I'm doing just that. And Violet's like, you are a good friend, Liam Mari. And Liam is like, you saved my life, Violet. The least I can do is grin and bear it through a fucking party. And Violet's like, I'm not sure I can. So Dane comes over to Violet and Liam, and it says, he grins, and it's all too easy to remember how many events just like this we've attended together over the years. His touch is gentle when he cups my cheek. You look beautiful tonight, Vi. Thank you, I smile. You look fabulous yourself. His hand falls away as he turns to Liam. Has this one tried to escape yet? She's always hated these things. Not yet, but the evening is young, Liam replies. Dane, at least he's getting the hint that Liam does not want to be there. He's like, hey, there's a staircase like 5 feet to your right. I'll distract him while you slip away. And she's like, thank you. And then she's like, Liam, let's get out of here. So remember whenever Xaden said that he could track Violet and like always know where she was? So Violet's trying to do that for Xaden. And she says that she opens her eyes, traces the ebb and flow of that shimmering shadow, and I know he's somewhere in front of me. And she turns to Liam. She's like, Liam, you know I adore you, right? And he's like, well, that's nice. And she's like, go away. And he's like, what? I can't just leave you out here by yourself. She's like, no offense, but I can fry this place if I need to. I need to find Xaden, so go. And Liam's like, I mean, your aim is shit according to you, but I get it, so go. And Violet heads to the parapet. Okay. And guess who is out there? Bodhi and Garrick. And they're like standing in that courtyard area that's right in front of the entrance to the parapet. And Violet goes up to Garrick and Bodhi and she's like, tell me he's not out there. And Bodhi's like, I could tell you that, but I'd be lying. And Garrick is like, you're not going to want to see him. Not tonight, Sorengale. Self-preservation is a thing, and notice that we are not with him. And we're his best friends. And Violet's like, yeah, well, I'm his I'm just his. Which, like, that's embarrassing. So this crazy bitch walks onto the parapet in the dark, barefoot, and in a dress. Where is her concern for her safety now? As she's walking, she realizes that she's in love with Xaden. Because why else would she be doing this crazy whack shit if not because she loved him? She says, I'm in love with Xaden. It doesn't matter that he's leaving soon or that he probably doesn't feel the same for me. It doesn't even matter that he warned me not to fall for him. It's not an infatuation, our physical chemistry, or even the bond between our dragons that keeps me reaching in every way possible for this man. It's my reckless heart. LOL. And then Violet's like, he's going to be so pissed when he hears that I did this. And then Xaden says, already am. And he's like, what the hell are you doing? And she's like, I'm doing what you just did. And he's like, my risk is significantly decreased because if I fall, the shadows will catch me. So I guess his shadows are like arms, which why doesn't that come into play more often? So he's essentially Tentacle Man? Shadow Tentacle Man? I don't know. I feel like they haven't explored that enough, the little arms thing. So, okay. And he's like, go back. And she's like, only if you do. I want to be wherever you are. And he's like, violence? And she's like, I know why you said you don't see a future for us. And he's like, do you? And she's like, you want me? And no, I'm not talking about in bed. You want me, Xaden Ryerson. You might not say it, but you do one better and show it. You show it every time you choose to trust me, every time your eyes linger on mine. You show it with every sparring lesson you don't have time for and every flight lesson that pulls you away from your own studies. You show it when you refuse to touch me because you're worried I don't really want you, and then show it again when you take time to hunt down Violets before a leadership meeting so I don't wake up feeling alone. You show it in, because that's what he did for her apparently whenever they fucked the first time. And she says, you show it in a million different ways. Please don't deny it. And it says his jaw flexes, but he doesn't deny it. She keeps going. She says, you think we don't have a future because you're scared that I won't like who you really are behind all those walls you keep. And I'm scared too. I can admit it. You're graduating. I'm not. You'll be gone in a matter of weeks and we're probably setting ourselves up for heartbreak. But if we let fear kill whatever this is between us, then we don't deserve it. I told you that I was the one who would decide when I'm ready to risk my heart, and I'm saying it. And he's like, you don't mean that? And she's like, I mean it. And he's like, if this is about the Imogen thing, and she's like, it's not. I know there's no one else. I wouldn't be walking the parapet in the middle of the night if I thought you were playing me. And he's like, then what made you even think that? Have to admit, it pissed me off. I've given you exactly 0 reasons to think I'm in anyone else's bed. So Xaden coaches Violet through her own thinking, and we realize whenever Violet was admiring Xaden and Garrick sparring, that Imogen was actually into Garrick and not Xaden. So that's why they're together on the board. And then Xaden's like, you're jealous. And she's like, maybe. Fine, yes. She's strong and fierce and has that same ruthless streak you do. I've always thought she was a better match for you. He's like, I know the feeling well. And you are strong and fierce and have a ruthless streak too. Not to mention you're the smartest person I've ever met. Ew, I don't want to say it. No. He says, that mind of yours is sexy as hell. Imogen and I are just friends. Ugh, so disgusting. And he says, are you done putting yourself in harm's way to get your point across? Probably not. And he's like, there's only you, Violence. Is that what you needed to hear? And she's like, yeah. And he says, even when I'm not with you, there's only you. Next time, just ask. You've never had a problem being bluntly honest with me. As I remember, you've even thrown daggers at my head, which I greatly prefer over watching you getting tangled up in your own thoughts. If we're going to do this, then we need to trust each other. And she's like, and you want to do this? He's like, yes. I can't make you any promises, Violence, but I'm tired of fighting it. And she's like, what do you mean you know the feeling of jealousy well? And he's like, I saw Atos kiss you after threshing and nearly lost my shit. And she's like, you wanted me then? I've wanted you from the first second I saw you, Violence. And if I was short with you today, well, it's just a shit day. She's like, I understand. And you know Dane and I are just friends, right? And he's like, I know that's how you feel, though I wasn't sure back then. Now get your ass back on solid ground. And he's like, don't ever put your life at risk over something as trivial as talking to me again. They hop off the parapet and Garrick and Bodhi are gone. And Violet's like, huh, weird, they were just here. And he was like, well, they're probably gone knowing I'm going to kick their ass later for letting you on the parapet. No. So she demands that Xaden take her to his room. She's like undressing him and like taking care of him. He's like, I don't deserve you, but I'm going to keep you all the same. And Violet's like, good, because I think I'm in love with you. So she said it. And he's like, you think or you know? And she's like, I know. I'm so wildly in love with you that I can't imagine what my life would even look like without you in it. And I probably shouldn't have said that, but if we're doing this, then we're starting from a place of complete honesty. Ew, it gets worse. And he's like, I fucking need you, Violet, right now. And I don't need anyone. So I'm not quite sure how to handle this feeling, but I'm giving it my best. And if you don't want this tonight, that's fine. But I'm going to need you to walk out that door right now, because if you don't, I'm going to have you naked on your back in the next 2 minutes. Help. Anyways, so they fuck 5 times, guys. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times. 5. Okay. Oh wait, no. They're about to go for number 5, okay? And then somebody knocks on Xaden's door. And he's like, go the fuck away. And they're like, trust me, man, I really wish I could, but I can't. And he's like, somebody better be dying out there.
Well, somebody better be dying.
I'm dying.
Garrick says, I think there are a lot of people dead, which is why they're calling the full quadrant to formation, jackass. And Xaden's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And Garrick says, grab your flight leathers and you'd better bring Sorengale with you too. We're under attack. What is happening? What is going on? So they're scrambling. Violet puts on Xaden's jacket because it's cold outside and, you know, that's all they've got. So Xaden tells Violet through their mind bond that this is all for fucking war games. And Violet's like, are you fucking serious? And he's like, yep. So it's war games time, boys and girls. And they get information and Rhiannon is like, is that Ryer's jacket you've got on? And Violet's like, could be any third year's jacket. And she's like, yeah, with the wing leader on it and the 4th wing patch on the side. And then Violet's like, fuck, okay. Yep, it's his jacket. And then Dane comes over and Rhiannon, she's a real one. She like puts her arm on Violet's shoulder so her hand like covers up the designations on the jacket that would mean it's Xaden's. And Dane's dad, Colonel Atos, reads off their scenario for the war games. The moment we've dreaded has arrived. The wars we've dedicated our lives to upholding are falling, and there has been an unprecedented multi-level attack along our borders, putting villages under siege from drifts of Griffin riders. Mass casualties among civilians and infantry are being reported, as are the deaths of multiple riders. And Violet's like, damn, he's laying on the melodrama pretty thick. So each of the wings is supposed to go in a different region, and squad leaders get to pick out which outposts to reinforce within that region, but wing leaders are going to be assigned to an outpost to determine a headquarters for the entire wing. It says wing leaders also get to create their ideal squad as a test of their leadership. So 4th wing gets assigned to this like region here, and then Xaden is assigned to Athabine. So they're going to these outposts for 5 days. And they're all going to have some sort of task or objective to complete once they get there. So they give them 30 minutes to like pack, change, and then get to the flight field. Once they get to the flight field, Violet sees that Andarna has her own harness too. It like attaches to Tarn, which reminds me of that meme that's like the airplanes. Anyways, so Xaden made Andarna a harness also. Aww. So Dane is prepping their whole squad for where they're going to go and whatever. And then Xaden walks over and Dane's like, can I help you? And he's like, I need you. And he's talking to Violet. And he's like, I'm sorry. Violet's like, relax. He just wants to say goodbye. And Xaden's like, if you're saying goodbye to anybody, it's him. I'm constructing my headquarters squad and you're coming with me. So are Liam and Imogen. And she's like, what? And Dane's like, the fuck you are? She's a first year and Athabine is beyond the wards. And Xaden's like, I don't hear you giving me the same shit about Liam. And Dane's like, Liam is the best cadet out of all of the first years. even with you assigning him to guard Violet. And Xaden's like, yeah? And Sorengale wields lightning. It's pretty awesome. And he's like, and not that I owe you an explanation, but Sigale and Taryn are mated, as you well know, and they can't be separated for like longer than like a couple days. And Dane's like, that you know of? Or can you honestly tell me that Sigale was at her wit's end when you showed up at Montserrat? You never fully tested how long they can be apart. And Xaden's like, feel like asking her yourself? And Dane's like, don't do this. Riders are known to die during war games, and she's safer with me. Anything could happen once we're away from Bascaeth, let alone you taking her beyond the wards. And Xaden's like, I'm not dignifying that with a response. This is an order. And Dane's like, or has this been your plan all along? To separate her from her squad so you can use her to get your need for revenge on her mother? Violet's like, Dane, you know that's not going to happen. And he's like, do I? He's made a big deal out of the whole if she dies, I die thing. But do you know it for a fact? Do you know Taryn won't survive your death? Or has it all been a ploy to earn your trust, Violet? And Violet's like, you need to stop like right now. And Xaden's like, please do quit while you're behind Atos. You want the truth? She's a fuck of a lot safer with me beyond the wars than she is with you within them. We both know it. The look in his eyes is similar to the one in Sigale's, and it dawns on me why she chose him. They're both ruthless, both willing to annihilate whatever stands between them and what they want. And Dane is in Xaden's path. Violet, she puts her arm on Xaden's shoulder and she's like, stop. If you want me to go with you, I'll go with you. And Dane's like, no fucking way. Him? You? And him? People talk, and I thought that was all it was. But you? Don't go, Violet, please. He's gonna get you killed. Violet says, I know you think Xaden has ulterior motives, but I trust him. He's had every opportunity and has never hurt me. At some point, you have to let this go. Dane looks horrified for a second, but quickly masks it. If he's what you choose, then I guess that has to be enough for me, doesn't it? She's like, yes. She's like, oh, thank God, all this nonsense is about to be over. He swallows hard and leans in to whisper, I'll miss you, Violet. And Xaden's like, thank you for trusting me, Violet. They fly for a long ass time, and they make it past the wards, and Violet's like, ooh, it feels like weird here. And Taryn's like, it's because we're outside of the wards. The magic here is like wilder and like less controlled. And apparently it's also harder for dragons to communicate outside of the wards. And the dragons are thirsty, so they take a little pit stop at a nearby lake outside of Athabine. And everybody's just kind of chilling, resting. Xaden and Violet are flirting, and they're about to bang again at this pit stop. The only thing that's notable here is that Xaden tells Violet that he's been hers for longer than she could have ever imagined. So I'm like, I feel like that's going to come back at some point. But as they're getting started, Xaden hears something and he's like, shit, Violet, I'm so sorry. And Violet's like, what? Huh? And then Xaden throws like his shadows around Violet so she can't see anything and she's like concealed. And it says, is this seriously how you dragon riders spend your time? A woman asks from behind Xaden, her voice like velvet dragged over a gravel road. Xaden! Someone yells and a couple pairs of feet come crashing through the brush. Bodhi, maybe? Silly to hide what's already been seen, the woman says, her tone curt. And if rumors are true, there's only one silver-haired rider in your death factory of a college, which means that's General Sorengale's youngest. And Xaden's like, fuck. Through their mind bond, he's like, I need you to stay calm, Violence. And she's like, calm? And he releases the little shadow barrier that's around her, and she sees a pair of griffin riders. She says the griffins are about a third of the size as the dragons, but they still look scary. And she's like, Taryn. And so he's coming to her. And the girl's like a fucking Sorengale. So they've amassed quite a crowd in this little span of time. Bodhi's there. Imogen's there. Liam's there. But none of them are drawing their weapons. That ain't gonna stop Violet, though. So she prepares to fling some lightning at them. And then Xaden is like, no, stop. And Violet's like, what the fuck? And then Taryn lands, and one of the Griffin Riders is like, holy shit, that one is huge. So Xaden grips like the nape of Violet's neck, and he's like, if you've ever trusted me, Violet, I need you to do that right now. And then Xaden hands Violet to Liam. And she's like, why is everybody just passing me around? And Violet's like, let me go to Liam. And he's like, I'm sorry, but I can't do that. And then Taryn is like growling at him, and he's like, okay, hands off, hands off. And then Xaden tells the Griffin Riders, you're fucking early. And my heart stops. At the beginning of this chapter, the epigraph is from Colonel Markham. In his last days of interrogation, Finn Ryerson lost touch with reality, rallying against the Kingdom of Navarre. He accused King Tory and all who came before him of a conspiracy so vast, so unspeakable, that it does not bear repeating by this historian. The execution was swift and merciful for a madman who cost untold lives. Anyways, Xaden tells the writer, "What happened to meeting tomorrow? We don't have a full shipment." She's like, "Shipment?" I barely process what Taryn says through the shock of the writer's words, and Xaden knows them. He's working with them, aiding our enemy. Betrayal cuts my throat like glass as I try to swallow. This is why he's been sneaking off from the quadrant. And then the Griffin Riders, they say, "We lost a village in the vicinity to a horde of venin 2 days ago. They decimated everything." And Violet is like, "Huh? Venin?" And then Imogen says, "Venin never come this far west." And then Violet's like, "Venin, yep, that's what they both said. What the actual hell? I'd think someone was fucking with me if not for the 2 enormous griffins looming behind the pair of riders, but no one is laughing." And Violet asks Taryn, she's like, "Are you getting this?" And he's like, "Unfortunately, yes." And the Griffin Riders are like, "Look, we've done our job. We warned you. Now we have to go defend our people. As it is, this side trip only gives us about an hour to reach them in time." And right before they go, they say, "If you think you'll ever convince a Sortingale to risk their neck for anyone outside their own borders, then you're a fool." Violet is obviously having a conniption, in her mind. And she's like, "Taryn." And Taryn's like, "Silver one?" And she's like, "They all carry rebellion relics. Everyone in this squad besides me is the child of a separatist. In the chaos of the flight field, Xaden constructed an all-marked squad. And they're all fucking traitors. And I fell for it. I fell for him." And Taryn's like, "Yes, they are." And she, oh my god, this is kind of annoying. Violet is very upset because not only has Xaden lied to her, but Taryn has been lying to her and Andarna has been lying to her. So she feels like nobody's been telling her the truth, including Liam, Imogen, all of them. They're all lying. They've all lied to her. Lying by omission. And she's really dramatic about it. She says, "The sweet glow of happiness, of love, trust, and affection that burned so brightly in my chest just a few minutes ago sputters painfully, gasping for oxygen like a campfire put out by a bucket of water once it outlives its usefulness. All I can do is watch as the embers drown and die." Like, fucking chill, Violet. Oh my god. Xaden watches me with increasing apprehension the closer he comes, like I'm some kind of cornered animal about to fight her way out with teeth and claws. How was I ever foolish enough to trust him? How did I ever fall for him? Like, he fucking told you exactly what was up, Violet. Oh, jeez. And then Violet whispers to Liam, she's like, "Were we ever really friends?" He's like, "We are friends, Violet, but I owe him everything. Like, I'm sorry, I can't just, do whatever the fuck you say." And Violet shoves Liam. She's like, "You watched me train with him. You stood by and watched me fall for him." And Bodhi's like, "Oh, shit." I hate this. Oh, God. It's so awkward seeing Violet and Xaden, go at it while, this whole fucking group of people is, standing there. Do it in private. And Xaden's like, "I know what you're thinking." And Violet's like, "You have no idea what I'm thinking." And he's like, "You're thinking I betrayed our kingdom." And she's like, "Good guess." Violet, she's not done. She says, "Gods, you are such a cliche, Xaden. You're a villain hiding in plain fucking sight. You're working with Griffin Riders?" He winces. "Actually, they're called flyers. We're riders because we ride dragons, but they ride griffins. They're flyers, technically." And she's like, "Which you know because you're in league with them. You're working with our enemy." And he's like, "Did you ever once stop to think that sometimes you can start on the right side of the war and end up on the wrong one? In this particular case, no. I was trained as a scribe, remember? All we've done is defend our borders for 600 years. They're the ones who won't accept peace as a solution. What shipments have you been giving them?" And Xaden says, "Weapons. That they used to kill dragon riders? No, that they used to kill venin." And Violet's like, "Venin are the stuff of fables." And Xaden's like, "They're real." And Violet's remembering that note that her dad left for her in that book. "So you're saying people who can somehow tap into the source of magic without a dragon or griffin to channel, corrupting their power beyond all salvation, actually exist?" And he's like, yep. They drained all the magic out of the barrens and then spread like an infestation. And she's like, well, at least that's in keeping with the folklore. So, all right. So enter Venin and Wyvern. Don't pay any attention to the location of their placement. There was just no more room left. And he's like, yes, this isn't how I wanted to tell you. And Violet's like, assuming you were ever going to tell me. And then Violet turns to Taryn and she's like, any comments? And Taryn says, not yet. I'd prefer you come to your own conclusion. I chose you for your intelligence and courage, Silver One. Don't let me down. I kind of have to read this whole page for it to make sense. So I apologize. But this is the good stuff. This is the good stuff, okay? We're almost at the end, so power through. Violet says, fine. Were I to believe Venin exists and roam the continent wielding dark magic, then I'd also have to believe they never attacked Navarre because... And she's thinking. She says... because our wards make all non-dragon magic impossible. And Xaden's like, yes. They'd be powerless the second they cross into Navarre. And she's like, fuck, that makes sense. Which means I would have to believe that we have no clue that Paromial is being relentlessly, viciously attacked by dark wielders just beyond our borders. And Xaden's like, or you have to believe that we know and choose to do nothing about it. And she's like, why the hell would we choose to do nothing about people being slaughtered? It goes against everything we stand for. And Xaden's like, because the only thing that kills Venin is the very thing powering our wards. And she asks, is this why there have been raids along our borders? They're looking for the material we use to power our wards? And he's like, yeah. The material is forged into weapons to fight the Venin. Here, take this. He gives her a black-handled dagger from the sheath at his side. Violet takes it, noting the sharpened blade, but it's alloy embedded into the rune-marked hilt that makes me gasp. You took this from my mother's desk? No, your mother probably has one for the same reason you should, to defend against Venin. And she's like, the dagger, the raids, it's all right there. She says, but you told me there was no chance we could be fighting something like this. He says, no, I told you I would hope that if this threat was out there, our leadership would tell us. And she's like, you twisted the truth to suit your needs. Which she has done. I don't even know how many times this book. So love that double standard. And he says, yes, and I could lie to you, Violence, but I'm not. No matter what you think right now, I have never lied to you. And she's like, and how do I know this is the truth? And he's like, because it hurts to think we're the kind of kingdom that would do this. It hurts to rearrange everything you think you know. Lies are comforting. Truth is painful. And she's like, you could have told me at any time, but instead you hid everything from me. And he's like, yes, I should have told you months ago, but I couldn't. I'm risking everything by telling you now. And she's like, because you have to, not because you want. And he's like, because if your best friend sees this memory, then we're all fucked. And she's like, you don't know that. And he says, Dane wouldn't break a rule to save your life, Violet. What do you think he'd do if he had this knowledge? And she's like, what would Dane do? Good question. I have to believe he would not put the Codex above people suffering beyond our borders. Or maybe I could have built shields that would have kept Dane from prying. Or maybe he would continue to respect my boundaries and never look in the first place. But we'll never know, will we? Because you didn't trust me to know the right thing to do, Xaden, did you? That's a weird sentence. Anyways, he's like, this is bigger than you and me both, Violence. And leadership will stop at nothing to sit behind their wards and keep the Venin secret. I watched my own father executed trying to help these people. I couldn't risk you too. He's like, you love me. And like, I want to know what he's got to say after that because that's weird. But she says, loved. I loved you. And he's like, love, you love me. Keep in mind that all of these fucking people are still standing here. And they're like, should we leave? Oh man. She says, everything I felt for you was based on secrets and deception. And he's like, everything between us is real, Violence. The rest I can explain with enough time, but before we need to get to our assigned outpost, I need to know if you believe me. She's like, yes, I believe you. That doesn't mean I trust you anymore. She's like handing him back his dagger, and he's like, keep it. And she's like, you're giving me a weapon after just telling me you've been deceiving me for months, Ryerson? He's like, absolutely. And I have another. And if what the flyers say is true and Venin are headed north, then you might need it. I never lied when I said I can't live without you, Violence. And defenseless women have never been my type, remember? And Andarna's like, we're sorry. So Violet, now her head is turning, okay? And she says, if Venin exists, we have record. And yet there weren't any copies of the Fable of the Baron in the archives. The one location Navarre should have a copy of every book written or transcribed in the last 400 years. which means Dad didn't just give me a rare book, but a forbidden one. 400 years of tomes and not a single one. And then she's like, 400 years. But our history spans over 6. Everything is a copy of an earlier work. The only original text in the archives older than 400 years, around the time we fell into war with Peromiel, are the original scrolls from the unification over 600 years ago. And then she's remembering from the letter, it only takes one desperate generation to change history, even erase it. And she's like, gods, Dad spelled it all out for me. He'd always told me scribes hold all the power. So they make it to Athabine. Xaden says, stop. And there's no one there. It's empty. And Xaden tells Violet, he's like, stay by my side. I don't think this is a war game. And Violet's kind of like, I want to argue so bad, but I think he's right. And Violet's like, this is one of the most strategic garrisons we man. There's no way they'd abandon it for war games. And Xaden's like, that's exactly what I'm afraid of. And he's like, Liam? Because Liam has farsight, so he's like scoping out the whole area. Okay, this is important. It says, Xaden turns on me and the look in his eyes is anything but welcoming. What did Dane say to you before we left? He leaned in and whispered something. I blink, trying to remember. He'd said something like, I search my memory. I'll miss you, Violet. His body goes tense. And he said I was going to get you killed. And Violet's like, yes, but he always says that. What would Dane have to do with emptying an entire outpost? And Garrick is like, I have something. And he's got like an envelope. And he's also with Imogen. Anyways, Xaden is like, did you tell him about my trips here? And Violet's like, no. Unlike some people, I never hid anything from you. He draws back, his gaze shifting left and right as he thinks before settling on me again and widening. Violence. Did Atos touch you after I told you about Athabine? And Violet's like, what?
His touch is gentle when he cups my cheek. You look beautiful tonight, Vi.
His power requires touching someone's face. Did he touch you like this? My lips part. Yes, but that's how he always touches me. He would never. I wouldn't know if he read my memories. Xaden's face falls and his hand slips downward, cradling the back of my neck. No violence. Trust me, you wouldn't. Dane. So bad. And Violet's like, he wouldn't. Dane is a lot of things, but he would never violate me like that. Never take something I hadn't offered. Except he did try once. And Garrick hands Xaden that envelope. He says, it's addressed to you. The missive, it says, War Games for Xaden Ryerson, Wing Leader of 4th Wing. I recognize the handwriting. How could I not when I've seen it all my life? That's from Colonel Atos. What does it say? Garrick says. What's our assignment? Liam says, guys, I think I see something just past the trading post. Oh, shit. Xaden's face drains of all color, and he crumples the missive in his fist before looking at me. It says our mission is to survive if we can. Oh, gods. Dane read my memories without my permission. He must have told his father where they've been sneaking off. I've unknowingly betrayed Xaden. Betrayed them all. And Liam is like, guys, this is bad. And Xaden tells Violet, this is not your fault. And then he rips his gaze from mine and turns to his friends who are running down the ramparts to join us. We've been sent here to die. All right. This epigraph, we get a little snippet of the Fables of the Baron, and it says, for there, in the land beyond the shadows, were monsters that dwelled in the night and dined on the souls of children who wandered too close to the woods. Garrick tells us that the letter says this is a test of your command. You have the choice of abandoning the village of our enemy or abandoning the command of your wing. And Bodhi's like, what the hell does that even mean? And Xaden says, they're testing our loyalty without actually saying it. According to the missive, if we leave now, we'll make it to the new location of headquarters for 4th Wing at Etuval in time to carry out our orders for war games. But if we leave, the trading post of Ressin and its occupants will be destroyed. And Imogen is like, by what? And Liam's like, Venin. You're positive? And Liam's like, as sure as I can be without actually having seen them before. 4 of them, purple robes, distended red veins, spidering all around, bright red eyes, creepy as shit. And Xaden's like, sounds about right. And Bodhi's like, I liked it better when we just delivered the weapons. And Liam says, oh yeah, and there's one guy with a giant ass staff. And I swear to done, 1 second the plane was clear and the next they were just there, walking the gates. And Imogen is like, red veins? And Violet's like, yeah, because magic corrupts their blood as they lose their souls, you know, from the fable. And she's like, what? Nature likes everything in balance. Taryn tells Violet that 7 griffins have landed next to us. And as they're standing there, Liam tells them that the Venin just blew up the gates to Ressin. So, yeah. Sorry, my back hurts so bad. The scoliosis, it's really popping today. I should do the next one, like, in a chair, like, closer to the ground, so I don't have to stand. So anyway, sorry, guys. We always have to end these with a chair scene. They're all trying to decide whether or not to go to Resin to defend the civilians or to leave them for dead, essentially, and then go to their second location for war games. They're making some great points, like Zayden says, this isn't a fucking training exercise, Bodhi. Some, if not all of us, are going to die if we go down there. If we've been assigned to an active wing, there would be a far older, more experienced leadership making this decision, but there aren't. If we weren't marked with rebellion relics, if we hadn't been aiding the enemy, we wouldn't even be here with this choice. So all command structure aside, what are your thoughts? And Soleil, which is a third year, I think, she's like, we have the numbers and air superiority. And Violet, she's like looking at the sky and she's like, well, at least there aren't any wyvern. And Bodhi's like, what? And Violet's like, wyvern, you know, like the dragons that Venin create and conjure. Fables say Venin created them to compete with dragons, and instead of channeling from them, they channel power into them. Zayden's like, yeah, let's not borrow trouble. And Garrick is like, look, there's 4 Venin, 10 of us. The girl from the lake pit stop thing, she's there now at Athabine. And she's like, I left the rest of the drift outside once we noticed that your outpost seems to be abandoned. I'm not going to ask you to fight with us. And Garrick is like, you're not? And she's like, no. 4 of them is tantamount to a death sentence. The rest of my drift are making peace with our gods. I came to tell you to leave. You have no clue what they're capable of wielding. It only took 2 of them to bring down an entire city last month. 2 of them. We lost 2 drifts trying to stop them. If there are 4 down there, then they're after something, and they're going to kill every single person in Resin to get it. Take your riot and go home while you can. And Violet, she just like knows that leaving these people to die is just wrong. And Violet's like, we have dragons. Surely that has to count for something. We're not afraid to fight. And the girl's like, are you afraid to die? Have any of you seen combat? And she's like, thought not. Your dragons do count for something. They can fly you far and fast. Dragonfire won't kill them. Only the daggers you've been bringing, and we have those. And she looks at Zayden and she's like, thank you for everything you've done. You've kept us alive these last couple of years and given us a fighting chance. And Zayden's like, you're going down there to die. She's like, yes. Get your riot out of here, fast. And Violet spells it out for us. She says, if we leave, they'll all die. Every civilian, every flyer. We won't have killed them, but we will have been complicit in their deaths all the same. And if we fight, we'll likely die with them. We can live as cowards or die as riders. And Zayden says, Sigale says she's never run from a fight, and today will not be the first. And I'm not going to stand by while innocent people are dying either. But I'm not going to order any of you to join me. I'm responsible for all of you. None of you crossed that parapet because you wanted to. None of you. You crossed it because I made a deal. I'm the one who forced you into the quadrant, so I won't think less of anyone who wants to fly for Eltuval instead. Make your choice. And he tells Violet in her mind that he doesn't want her in harm's way. And she says, if the others get to make a choice, then so do I. And Imogen says, we're riders. We defend the defenseless. That's what we do. And Bodhi says to Zayden, you've saved every single one of us here, cousin, and we're thankful. Now, I like to do what we've trained for, and if it means I don't get to go home, then I guess my soul will be commended to Malik. I wouldn't mind seeing my mother anyways. Garrick says, I'll tell you the same thing I did after threshing our first year when we decided to start smuggling weaponry out. You kept us alive all these years. We get to decide how we die. I'm with you. Soleil, she's also in. Liam steps forward so he stands at my side. We watched as our parents were executed because they had the courage to do the right thing. I'd like to think my death would be just as honorable. Violet says, my chest tightens. Their parents died to expose the truth while mine sacrificed my brother to keep this heinous secret. And now all eyes are on Violet because she has to make her decision. And Violet's like, Taryn? And he's like, we will feast on their bones, Silver One, she says in her mind. I will not leave innocent people to die, no matter what side of the border they live on. I will not let my squad mates risk their life while I run, despite the plea I see in Zayden's eyes. At least Rhiannon, Sawyer, and Riddick aren't here. They'll all live to be second years. Mira will understand. I have no doubt that she would do the same. And as for Mom, the dagger on her desk means that she knows and has done nothing to stop it. Guess I'll be the second child she sacrifices to keep the existence of Venin a secret. And Violet tells everybody, she says, I've been defenseless. And now I'm a rider. Riders fight. And they're all like, woo! And Zayden's like, Liam, give me a report. And Liam says, the flyers are engaged, all 7, 6 of them. Looks like they're trying to draw fire away from the civilians. But damn, the Venin are wielding a kind of fire I've never seen among riders. 3 surround the city, and 1 is making his way towards a structure in the middle, a clock tower. Zayden reminds everybody that the only way to kill these Venin is via dagger, okay? No dragon fire, no nothing, just dagger. Why? I don't know. But Garrick is like, don't throw your dagger unless you're sure of your aim, because you can't get it back, and we only have so many. So these are precious daggers, so don't be throwing them, Violet. And they're like, all right, let's go. And so Violet walks right between Taryn and Sigale tells Violet, I knew you'd make the right choice. He did too. Even if he doesn't like you putting yourself in danger, he knew you would. Violet's like, well, he knows me a great deal more than I know him. And Sigale is like, you're a far cry from the trembling girl who stood in the courtyard and tried to mask her fear after Parapet. I approve. And Violet is like, I wasn't asking for your approval. And then it says she chuffs and nudges Taryn's head with hers, but he's solely focused on the trading post. So Sigale, she likes Violet. And so Andarna is like a target because she's so bright and shiny. So Violet is like, stay here, Andarna. Don't come out. And she's like, I mean it. If we're not back by morning or you think Venin are approaching, you fly home to the Vale. Get behind the wards no matter what. And Andarna is like, I'm not leaving you. And Violet tells Andarna, you'll feel the moment when you know that there's nothing to leave. And it might break your heart, but when you feel it, you fly. Promise me you'll fly. And Andarna nods. And a screech rends the air. And an enormous gray dragon emerges from a valley 2 ridgelines to the south, across the Paromish border. It tucks its 2 legs up under its massive body as it flies away from us, heading straight for Resin. Wyvern. And Violet's like, oh my god, remember when Mira said that she could have sworn she saw a riot of dragons across the border? And then Imogen's like, well, there went our air superiority, but fuck them, they can die too. And Taryn is like, they've created abominations. And Violet is like, did you know? And he's like, I suspected. That's why I've been training you so hard during flight maneuvers. And Zayden's like, anybody want to change their mind? And nobody says anything. So he's like, okay, let's go. And he gives Violet a second dagger. And Violet's like, you're not going to lecture me about staying safe in the outpost? And he's like, if I asked you to stay, would you? She's like, no. And he's like, okay, I try not to pick fights. I know I'm not going to win. And she's like, speaking of knowing you'll win fights, General Milgren will know what happened here. He'll be able to see the outcome of the battle even now. And Zayden shakes his head slowly and points to his neck. Do you remember how I told you I realized it was a gift, not a curse? Just trust me. Because of this, Milgren can't see a fucking thing. My lips part, remembering Milgren saying he liked to lay eyes on Zayden once a year. She's like, any other secrets you're keeping from me? And he's like, yep. Stay alive and I promise I'll tell you whatever you want to know. And Violet's like, more secrets? More? And Violet tells Zayden, I need you to survive this, even if I hate that I still love you. And he's like, I can live with that. And Taryn tells them, so they're off to Resin. Taryn is like, there's something in that trading post. We all feel it. Violet lays eyes on our first Venin, and she says, he's more terrifying than any illustrator could have depicted. Rivers of red veins fanning in every direction around soulless eyes consumed by magic. His face is gaunt, with sharp cheekbones and thin lips, a gnarled hand gripping a long red cane made of some misshapen wood. And so Taryn blows fire at him. Which, Violet, did you not fucking listen when Zayden said the only way to kill them is via dagger? I guess not. And then she's like, got him. And then she obviously realizes that he's still alive. Like, bruh. Annoying. And then Violet realizes that there's more than one wyvern, and so she alerts Zayden. Now that I'm sitting, I got a Kimmy on me. And Violet's like, Taryn, I can't aim my lightning. And he's like, you will. Orders are being dispersed amid the griffins. And she's like, dragons can speak to griffins? And he's like, naturally. How do you think we communicated before humans got involved? So Violet tries wielding her lightning, and she misses the venin, of course, and she breaks off like a side of the city wall. All right, I can't sit because Kimmy's going to bother me. I'm going to try to say as much about this battle as I can, but there's like so much that like happens that to describe it, I would just have to like read it. So I'm going to try my best, okay? So the objective here at this battle is number 1, kill Venin, kill Wyvern, and save the townspeople, okay? So Soleil found a sealed entrance to what looked like a mine, and so they're gonna like open it up and then use that as a place to harbor all of the townspeople until this fight is over. But because the Venin can only be killed with daggers, it's a lot of hand-to-hand combat with the Venin. Keep that in mind. As Violet and whoever is guarding off the Venin and the Wyvern while they're trying to get civilians in this mine, Soleil and her dragon are running on foot to this Venin to try to dagger him, and then the Venin starts channeling from the source. So he like bends on the ground and puts his hand on the ground, and then like the grass that's around him starts to like brown. It like dies. So he like sucks up the life from the earth, and as the circle is growing, Soleil and her dragon are like running towards the Venin, and then that brown patch gets to them and they just drop dead. They just drop dead. It says that her dragon like crumples to the ground, like insane. So this Venin, he's like geetered now because he's got all of this magic. He sucked up the magic from Soleil's whole ass dragon, from Soleil, from all the earth around it. That energy that Taryn was talking about, they think that that's what the Venin they're looking for, is for this unknown object. So Liam is wielding ice now, and he shoots some ice shards into the Wyvern and it falls. And Violet is like, woo, go Liam. And this is really funny because everybody was like, doesn't Liam have the signet of Farsight? But it's just a typo in the book that he starts wielding ice. He doesn't have 2 signets, which would be cool. So she just fucked up and made him wield ice like Riddick. So Riddick is also kind of present in this battle. Apparently there's some nearby dynamite, and Taryn like shoots flames at it and then it blows up. Honestly, the scene is very Marvel-esque, where they're just like destroying the city, what seems like for fun. Violet wields her lightning at some point, and the Venin did not like that. So Violet's trying to hit her targets, but remember, she's very not good at that. She keeps missing. Xaden almost gets killed. Taryn almost gets killed. And Violet sees that Liam is being tailed by a Wyvern with a Venin rider. And she's like, okay, Taryn, come on, let's go help them. Liam jumps off his dragon onto the Wyvern, kills the Venin, and then jumps back onto his dragon. Which is insane, considering that the Wyvern are bigger than dragons. I did not realize that in my first read of this. I thought that they were like similar in size, but no, they're bigger. Crazy. But Violet, she keeps getting distracted with narrating the story, and she doesn't see a Wyvern headed straight for Taryn, and there's no time for them to get out of the way until a flash of red takes the Wyvern out on its side. And the collision sends Liam flying onto Taryn's back, and Violet like dislocates her shoulder trying to catch him. Violet is pissed that Liam did that, and Liam is like, you saved my life, and now it's my turn. So Violet's trying to keep Liam and her balanced on Taryn's back, and then Day screams. Day is Liam's dragon. Violet is like, Xaden, help! And he's like, I can't. If I leave, like, these civilians are gonna die. But the Wyvern has got its jaws on Day, and Liam is screaming. Taryn is like fucking up this Wyvern too, okay? They're not standing at a distance and watching Day get fucked up. Taryn is like ripping its wings off of its body, like slashing its body to pieces, but this Wyvern will not let go. They realize that this Wyvern is willing to literally give its life to kill Day. Taryn has to take a break from eviscerating the Wyvern that's got Day because another Wyvern is about to get Taryn, and he fucks that Wyvern up. And so that was easy. And also now Xaden is on his way to help. And it says, but he'll be too late. Violet, Liam showers over the wind, and I rip my attention from the gruesome battle alongside us as we spiral downward. We have to take out the riders. And Violet's like, I know, we will. He just needs to hang on. They both do. No, I mean, that's the... And it says, Day screams again, the sound weaker and higher pitched than the last. It's a cry. And Taryn is like, we have to pull up. And Liam is like, he's dying. Liam lunges across Taryn's back, reaching for his dragon, as if so he can touch the red dagger tail one last time. The Wyvern roars in victory, a heartbeat before they crash into the hillside with a sickening thud. The Wyvern lips away on its hind legs and the talons that tip its wings. Day doesn't move. Liam's raw scream shatters my heart, and Taryn flares his wings, banking hard to keep us from the same gruesome fate. Taryn's grief blasts through my body as he streams fire at the wyverns retreating back, and Andarna's cry fills my head. And she's like, is he? And Taryn says, he's gone. And Violet's like, no, that means... She says, Liam! I grab for my friend as we land at speed, Taryn's claws digging into the ground to stop us close to Day's body. And Taryn says, you only have minutes. And Liam whispers, Day, falling limp against Taryn's back. I'll get you to him, I promise, already fumbling with the strap's buckle. Day's gone, I cry to Xaden, my voice a trembling mess. Liam is dying. I feel his terror, his sorrow, and his overpowering anger wrap around my mind, mixing with my own until it hurts to breathe. Oh, so sad. This scene is so fucking sad. Lily. We all love Lily. Gone but not forgotten. This isn't fair. This isn't right. Not Day. Not Liam. They're the strongest of our year. They're the best of us. Liam says, I can't make it, stumbling forward and tripping. He's struggling to breathe. Fight to stay. Please, Liam. Fight to stay. And Liam says, at parapet, his face twists in pain. You have to take care of my sister. Liam, no. You'll be there. I stroke his hair. He's fine. He's physically perfectly fine, and yet I'm watching him slip away. You have to be there. He has to smile at his sister he's missed for years and flash that dimple of his. He has to give her the stack of letters he's written. He deserves it after all he's been through. He can't die for me. Taryn, tell me what to do. And he's like, there's nothing you can do, Silver One. And Liam says, we both know I won't. Just promise you'll take care of Sloane. Promise. And Violet's like, I promise. I'll take care of Sloane. He's dying and there's nothing I can do. Nothing anyone could do. How can all this power be so fucking useless? The pulse under my thumb slows. Good. That's good. He forces a weak smile and that dimple makes a faint appearance before his expression falters. And I know you feel betrayed, but Xaden needs you. And I don't mean just alive, Violet. He needs you. Please hear him out. All right. Thank you, Liam. Thank you for being my shadow. Thank you for being my friend. He blurs in my vision as the tears come faster. And Liam says, it's been my honor. Seconds later, I feel Xaden racing towards us, a torrent of his emotions overwhelming my own. No, Liam, Xaden chokes out as he crouches in front of us, the muscles in his face working to control his expression. But there's no hiding the despair that pushes at our mental connection. Xaden comes in, and Xaden is obviously not doing well because Liam is dying. And so Xaden picks up Liam and then takes him to Day because Violet obviously doesn't have the strength to like pick Liam up and then carry him. So Xaden does that. And so it says, Xaden lowers Liam, sitting him against Day's unblemished shoulder, then kneels beside him, nodding slowly at whatever Liam has said. The cry of a wyvern splits the air above us, and I look up instinctively. A cloud of flapping gray wings move toward us from higher up the valley. Wyvern. Dozens and dozens of wyvern. Liam's head rolls slowly as they both look. Xaden's head bows and my breath freezes in my lungs as shadows momentarily whip out around him like a blast of menace and sorrow. Seconds later, his soundless, soul-rending scream fills my head with such force that my heart shatters like glass against the stone floor. I don't need to ask. Liam is gone. Sad. Liam, who never complained about being my shadow, never hesitated to help, never bragged about being the best of our year. He died protecting me. Oh gods, and I just asked him if we'd ever really been friends an hour ago. And then Xaden grabs Violet's shoulders and he's like, Violence, Liam told me to tell you that there are 2 riders with that horde. And she's like, why would he tell me? And she's like, because he knew I'd be the one who holds off the wyvern as long as possible. And I'm the only one who can kill them all. Because Violet's lightning kills Venom and wyvern. I don't think I've said that. Sorry. I'm like fucking bad at this. And Xaden, no matter how strong he is, Xaden won't be able to hold them forever. His arms already shake with the effort of controlling so much power. He'll be the first to die if I'm not exactly what he called me under that tree all those months ago. Violence. There are dozens of wyvern and 1 of me. I have to be strategic as Brennan and as confident as Mira. I've spent the last year trying to prove myself I'm nothing like my mother. I'm not cold. I'm not callous. But maybe there is a part of me that's more like her than I care to admit. Because right now, standing near the dead body of my friend and his dragon, all I want is to show these assholes exactly how violent I can be. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Ooh, this epigraph, it says, but it was the third brother who commanded the sky to surrender its greatest power, who finally vanquished his jealous sibling at a great and terrible price. Yo, what? I didn't realize this either. So I feel like that's gotta come back somehow. Okay. Anyways, Violet spewing lightning. She's feeling herself close to burnout. Okay. And now there's a Venin on Taryn's back. They've jumped on there. So Violet and this Venin are doing some hand-to-hand combat, okay? This Venin, though, is fast as fuck. They're really good. She dodges a couple hits. She's definitely on the defense here. Violet, she loves this move, you know? So she blocks with her forearm, and the Venin breaks her arm. Ooh. And the dagger that Violet was holding flies out of her hand. Not good. But Violet says this Venin is unnaturally quick. And then Violet is struck with some horrible pain that is in her side, and she realizes that the Venin has stabbed her with this green-tipped dagger. The Venin says, "Such untapped power. No wonder we were called here. You could command the sky to surrender all its power, and I bet you don't know what to do with it, do you? Riders never do. I'm gonna split you open and see where all that astonishing lightning comes from." She waves the other dagger at me, and I realize she's playing with me. Or maybe I'll let him do it. You'll wish for death if I hand you over to my sage. And Violet's like, she has a teacher? This thing's a damn student. And Xaden's like, level the playing field. And so he blacks out Taryn's back. So it's like dark because Violet, she knows Taryn's back like it's her own. And the Venin obviously doesn't. So the Venin's kind of disoriented, and then Violet is able to stab it, you know? And then Violet tells Xaden that the Venin is dead. And Taryn is like, "You're hurt." And she's like, "I'm fine." I lie, staring with wide eyes as dark black blood sludges through my fingers. Not good. So not good. And she's like, "The strength is flowing out of me with my blood." I sheath the dagger. My best weapon now is my mind. I take a deep breath, fight to steady my heartbeat, and think. And Taryn is like, "They're falling." And she jerks her gaze to see 3 wyvern tumble from the sky and crash to the earth. Riderless wyvern, created by Venin. And they all died because I killed one Venin. And she's like, "That's what Liam was trying to tell me, that we have to take out the riders because they're the ones who control the Venin." So it's like the opposite of their whole, like, a dragon without their rider is a tragedy, rider without the dragon's dead. It's like flip-flopped. So it's like, kill the dragon, you kill the rider, but you kill the Venin and you kill all of the wyvern that Venin created. And Violet's like, "Okay, Taryn, we need to take out the riders." And he's like, "Great idea." And she's like, "You're willing to gamble your life on it?" And he says, "I will bet my life on you as I have from the first day." I like that. So Xaden is currently holding back 2 Venin with his shadow wall thing that he's made. And he may have some wyvern back there too around this wall, but he's like trying to condense them in, okay? He's got them blocked off. And then Violet tells Xaden that she needs to let his shadows fall. And he's like, "What?" And then Andarna speaks to Violet and she's like, "So much suffering." And Violet's like, "No, it's not safe for you here." And she's like, "You need me." And Violet's like, "Please hide. One of us has to survive this." Then she talks to Xaden again. And she's like, "Xaden, you have to drop the shadows. It's the only way." And Sigale shouts, she says, "Taryn," fear edging her tone in a way I've never heard. And Xaden says, "Don't ask that of me." Even Xaden's voice shakes. Those shadows are coming down whether or not he wants them to. He's approaching burnout. And Violet says, "If you've ever trusted me, Xaden, I need you to do it now." She loves to use his own words against him. And he's like, "Fuck." In a blink, the wall of shadows falls, and the wyvern fly towards us with terrifying speed. If I can't do this, no one will survive. There are too many of them. And Violet tells Taryn, "Spot the more powerful rider. Once I've taken that rider out, that leaves only one Xaden. Just kill that one and the rest of the wyvern will fall." And he's like, "I'm coming." And Violet tells Xaden, "You've saved us by holding them back this long." And then Taryn is like, "That one." And she's like, "You're sure?" And he's like, "Positive." And Taryn is like, "Please tell me your plan is not to jump on the back of that wyvern's back." And she's like, "I don't have to. Didn't you hear what the Venin said? I can command the sky to surrender all its power, but I'm going to need every ounce of yours to do it." And she's throwing lightning, and she keeps fucking missing. They're almost on us as I strike again and again, pushing myself to the limit as Xaden smothers the blue flames before they have a chance to burn me alive. I can't aim. I'm not ready. Maybe if I had another year or 2 to practice, but not now. And she's like, "I need more, Taryn, more power." And he's like, "You will burn out, Silver One. You already walked the edge." And she's like, this is the only way I can save them. I can save Sigale. You just have to decide to live, Taryn, even if I don't. And he's like, I will not watch another rider die because they do not know their own limitations. One more strike could be your last. I feel your waning strength. And she's like, I know exactly what I'm capable of. I'm not Naolin. And she's like, now. And then it says, I push my arms toward the venom and command lightning to split the sky, and it does, branching out in every direction, but I only need to control one of its silver blue veins. I focus on the one closest to the venom, bringing it down in slow bursts that defy time. My arms vibrate and I feel Terran's power push the boundaries of my body as I yank the branch sideways in its descent, inch by inch, with the last of my strength positioning it over the venom. More Terran! He roars and lightning itself rips through me, sizzling my lungs and charring my very breath as Andarna's gift ebbs. I don't have to be near her to feel her fatigue, her strength ebbing, but I only take what I need. Andarna will live today, even if she's the only one. I only have a few heartbeats or this much power will burn through me and take me under. Xaden screams through the barrier in my mind, and the sounds of his anguish and fear are nearly more than I can bear. But there's no time to focus on him, to wonder what will happen if I don't succeed, because right now I am focused on vengeance with a coldness that would make even my mother proud. Finally dragging the lightning down into place as my skin sizzles and burns, I release time and hold myself upright long enough to see it strike true, killing the venom at the first touch of its energy. As if time were still frozen, his body slowly topples from the top of his wyvern. In the next breath, more than half the monsters fall from the sky, as if they were struck themselves, and as if it had been waiting for me to accomplish my goal, the wound in my side threatens to burn me alive. And Taryn is like, on the left! And a venom and its rider is like barreling towards them. And it says a rope of shadow flies up, wrapping around the venom's neck as Taryn banks left to avoid the hit, and I barely manage to keep my seat. Xaden pulls the venom from the wyvern's back and yanks him downward, right into the dagger he holds in his outstretched hand. Damn, sometimes I forget just how beautifully lethal he is. Knowing they'll all live, I let gravity claim my body and slide from Taryn's back. Violet! I hear Xaden scream as I fall. I didn't realize this, but this was funny. The first line of this chapter is, I think I might die today. Air rushes by and my stomach feels like it's somewhere above me because I'm falling. Endlessly falling. Taryn roars and it's the panic, the pitch of that bellow that forces my eyes open just long enough to see him diving for me, but I can't feel him in my head. Can't feel my feet on the archive's floor, can't access my power. I'm cut off, no longer grounded. My back slams into something, knocking the breath from my lungs, slowing my descent but not stopping it, and shimmering gold rises and ebbs around me. Wind stills and the cries of mayhem and destruction pause, but the burn inside rages on, consuming me with fiery teeth. Time. Andarna has stopped time with what strength she has left. I'm on her back, falling, because she isn't strong enough to carry me, but she's brave enough to fly into this battle. Now my eyes are burning too. She shouldn't be here. She should be tucked away in the outpost, safe from the wyvern 3 times her size. And then somebody comes over and they're like, Violet. I know that deep, panicked voice. Xaden. But I can't move. Can't even force my lips apart to scream with the pain of it all when he puts pressure on the wound. And he's like, fuck, it must be poison. You have to fight it. And she's like, but what poison could paralyze me not only physically but magically? And he's like, I'll take care of you. Just live. Please live. The battle is over now, I think. They've like retreated because Violet killed him with 1 lightning strike. Garrick says, maybe it isn't poison. Maybe it's magic. And then someone says, did you see the way she whipped that lightning straight at that venom's head? And Bodhi's like, not now. She saved your fucking life. She saved all our lives. And then Violet's like, but I didn't. Soleil and Liam are dead. And Xaden's like, her blood is fucking black. And Imogen is like, it has to be poison. Look at it. We have to get her back to Beskayeth. Nolan might be able to help. And Violet's like, yes, Nolan. Take me to Nolan. And Xaden's like, that's a 12-hour flight. And I'm pretty sure her arm is broken. And Violet's like, I'll be dead in 12 hours. And Xaden's like, they're somewhere closer. You can't be serious. Someone's voice lowers to a hiss. You'll put everything at risk, Garrick warns as sleep tugs at me, the only escape from the searing pain. Taryn bellows so loudly my ribcage vibrates. At least he's close. I wouldn't say that again, or he'll probably eat you. And don't forget, if she dies, there's a damn good chance Xaden does too. Imogen said that. And Garrick is like, I'm not saying he shouldn't, just reminding him what the stakes are. And Xaden says, I don't give a fuck what happens to me. We are going, and that's an order. And Bodhi's like, no need for orders, man. We'll save her. Shit. And Xaden says, live up to your nickname and fight this violence. And then he says, let her to someone farther away. We have to get her to him. He like picks her up, but like he's moving her wound too much and she like passes out. I guess she's like kind of in and out now. Imogen is like, are you sure about this? And Garrick snaps at Imogen and he's like, stop fucking asking him that. He made his decision. Support him or get the fuck out, Imogen. Okay, Garrick, get her. Damn. And it's a bad one. And Bodhi says, when you have 107 scars on your back, then you get to make the fucking decisions. Taryn roars loud. And Garrick is like, what was that? And Xaden says, he basically said that he'll cook me alive if I fail. And Violet's in so much pain and she's just like, God, I wish he'd just let me die. Like, and she's like, I deserve it. I'm the reason Liam is dead. I'm so weak-minded. I didn't even realize Dane took my memories and used them against me. Against Liam. And then Xaden says to Violet, you can hate me all you want when you wake up. You can scream, hit, throw your fucking daggers at me for all I care, but you have to live. You can't make me fall for you and then die. None of this is worth it without you. Xaden, a familiar voice calls out, but I can't place it. Bodhi, maybe? One of the second years? So many strangers and no friends. Liam is dead. You have to save her. Ooh, this is a dope epigraph. And also, coincidentally, our last chapter. And our last chapter is also in Xaden's perspective, so you get a little treat. The epigraph says, the last words of Finn Ryerson, in quotes, redacted. You're all cowards. Okay, Mance Raider. Pretty good. Sigale, we're getting some Sigale perspective because we're in Xaden's POV now. And Sigale says, she'll be all right. Of course, Violet is not dying, guys. Come on. And we find out it's been 3 days and Violet has still not woken up. And Xaden has been like sitting by her bedside since she's been there. Hasn't left her once. For 3 days, everything about her has felt as though the life was leached from her body, only a shadow of her soul left beneath her skin. She's never looked fragile to me, but she does now, lying in the middle of my bed, her lips pale and chapped, the ends of her hair duller than their usual blade-like hue. He's like, I'm a fucking fool. I should have left her at Bascaeth, or sent her with Atos, even if it strained Sigale and Taryn. She never should have suffered the punishment Colonel Atos delivered, for a crime she didn't even know I was committing, didn't even suspect. I run a hand through my hair. She wasn't the only one who suffered. Liam would be alive. And Taryn tells Xaden, he says, you should have told her about the venin. I waited for you to impart the information, and now she's suffering. And Xaden is happy that Taryn is even talking to him because that means that Violet is still alive. And Xaden's like, I should have done a lot of things differently. We get some confession of Xaden of how much he loves Violet, you know, the huge. And then Violet wakes up and he's like, you're awake. Can I check your side? He checks where she got stabbed. And it's just a little silver scar now. And he's like, miraculous. And she's like, what's miraculous? And Xaden's like, water. You must be parched. She drinks the whole thing. And she's like, thanks. He's like, you are miraculous. I was fucking terrified, Violet. There aren't adequate words. And Violet's like, I'm fine, Xaden. And he's like, I thought I was going to lose you. And she's like, you're not going to lose me. She gives me a puzzled look, smiling like I've said something peculiar. And then she leans in and kisses me. She still wants me. The revelation makes my heart fucking sore. They're making out now after she's been dead for 3 days. And he's like, I'll make it up to you. I'm not saying we won't fight or you won't want to throw those daggers at me when I'm inevitably an ass, but I swear I'll always strive to do better. And she's like, make what up to me? And he's like, how much do you remember? By the time we got you here, the poison had spread to your brain. And then she kind of like realizes what's happened, like what's going on. And she's like, he can tell that she's checking in with her dragons. And he's like, don't panic. Everything's fine. And Darna isn't quite the same, but she's her. And then in Xaden's mind, he's like, she's fucking huge now, but I'm not going to say that to Violet. Her gift is also gone, according to Taryn, but there's plenty of time to share that news. Instead, I say, the healer told me he isn't sure what lasting effects the poison might have because it was something he's never seen. And so no one really knows how long it will take to get your memories back if there's any lasting damage. But I'll tell you. And she throws up her hand and she looks around the room, as if noticing where we are for the first time, and then scrambles backward out of bed, pulling her robe closed. And he's like, Violet? I keep my shields up, trying to respect her privacy as I walk to her side, but gods, I need to know what she's thinking. Her eyes widen as her gaze sweeps over the town. So Violet walks to the window because she's like, where the fuck are we? Her eyes widen as her gaze sweeps over the town, each structure with its identical green roofs, and then pauses on the Temple of Amari, which was the most noted landmark besides our library. Where are we? And don't you dare lie to me. Not again. And he's like, you remember, yay. And she's like, where are we? Say it. And he's like, the way you're looking at me says you already know. And she's like, this looks like Orisha. There's only one temple with those particular columns. I've seen the drawings. And he's like, yes. She's like, Orisha was burned to the ground. I've seen those drawings too. The ones the scribes brought back for the public notices. My mother told me she saw the embers with her own eyes. So where are we? And he's like, Orisha. She's like, rebuilt or never burned? And he's like, in the process of rebuilding. And she's like, why haven't I read about this? She's like, don't answer. Melgren can't see the outcome when more than 3 of you are together. That's why you're not allowed to assemble. And he's like, that, and we're not big enough to warrant the attention of the scribes anymore. We're not hidden. We're just not advertising our existence. He's like, you can know whatever you want. Just ask. She's like, tell me one thing right now. And he's like, anything. And she's like, is Liam really dead? And she's like, it's my fault. And he's like, no, it's mine. If I just told you everything sooner, you would have been prepared. Probably would have schooled us all on how to kill them. My soul breaks all over again when she swipes at twin tears with the backs of her hands. I set the carving in her hand. I know I should have, but I couldn't bear to burn it. We laid him to rest yesterday. Well, the others did. I haven't left this room since we got here. I haven't left you. Well, you do have a vested interest in my survival. Give me a second to get dressed and then we'll talk. Zayden goes out while Violet takes a bath. He's talking to Garrick and Bodhi. They're like, thank God she's awake. And Zayden says she'll have to choose. She's either going to decide to keep our secret or not. And then he's like, that's something you'll have to figure out. And then Zayden's like, any word from the Flyers? And he's like, Serena is alive if that's what you're asking. And so is her sister. But the rest, dead. Gone. Donezo. Zayden asks Garrick, he says, you figure out what that box was that, I don't know how to pronounce this word, but it's Garrick's dragon, was drawn to back at Resin? Garrick's dragon is remarkably sensitive to runes, which allowed them to locate and retrieve the small iron box beneath the rubble of the clock tower. They're working on it right now. Hopefully we'll all have an answer in the next couple of hours. I'm glad she's all right, Zayden. I'll tell the others. And Bodhi is like, God, you smell fucking terrible. Please go take a shower. Violet's finished showering and she's like, okay, Zayden, come back in. And she's like glancing around the room and the fortress and she's like, is this all original? And he's like, the majority of the fortress is stone. Stone doesn't burn. And she's like, right. And he says, I think after all you've seen, the question I have to ask before I tell you everything is pretty simple. Are you in? Are you willing to fight with us? And she's like, I'm in. And Zayden's like, I'm so sorry I had to keep. And then she's like, don't fucking touch me. Just because I believe you and I'm willing to fight with you doesn't mean I'll trust you with my heart again. And I can't be with someone I don't trust. She's like, it's not even that you kept this from me. I get it. It's the ease with which you did it. The ease with which I let you into my heart and didn't get the same in return. If you're annoyed by this, just fucking wait until the next book. Because I find it quite annoying. And Zayden, in his mind, he's like, I love her. Of course I love her. But if I tell her now, she'll think I'm just saying it for the wrong reason. And honestly, she'd be right. And he's like, you're right. I kept secrets. It took me a long time to trust you, a long time to realize I fell for you. Someone knocks at the door. And she's like, don't say that. And he's like, I fell for you. And you know what? You might not trust me anymore, but you still love me. And she's like, I gave you my trust for free once, and once is all you get. I'll spend my whole life earning back your trust, blah, 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 you know. And then there's another knock at the door, and he's like, fuck, is he impatient? He's like, if I know that guy, you got about 20 seconds to answer a question before he walks in. And she's like, I'm still hoping that mess at Athabine was really about the war games. Do you think there's any chance we just happened to end up in the middle of a wyvern attack at that outpost? That definitely wasn't an accident, little sister, he says from the doorway. I sigh and move to the side, watching Violet's eyes widen as she sees him standing in the doorway. Told you I knew better poison masters. You weren't healed. You were mended. Brennan? Welcome to the revolution, Violet. So Brennan is alive. Surprise, surprise. When I first read this, my boyfriend thought that Violet's dad was going to be the one that was actually alive, but turns out it is Brennan. It's Brennan. So yeah, wow guys, yay. I'm so happy that this video is done. You can't imagine the amount of time it has taken to prepare for this. Like, I greatly underestimated the amount of time, truly. I hope so badly I can finish the Iron Flame one before it comes out. but I really don't know. And I'm really sad because I'm like, if I don't get it out before Onyx Storm comes out, is it even worth it? It is, and I'm still gonna do it, but I'm just sad. During my reread of Fourth Wing, I was enjoying it so much, and I wasn't making any notes, so I essentially had to reread it a third time and make notes on it again. So now, whenever I read Iron Flame, at least as I'm reading it, I can make notes on each chapter as I go, write a little script in advance, and then I just have to film, edit, and that's it. So if you've watched this whole thing, I think you have to subscribe. I think you have to. You've earned it. And I would also very much appreciate it. So yeah, yay! I'm like kind of depressed because I just got a new job and I had been planning on asking off for January 21st at my previous job, and I start my new job on the 20th. I literally cannot ask for the day after I start off. So I like can't not work on the 21st, which fucking sucks. Like, I'm genuinely so sad about it. I have the hardcover pre-ordered. I have the Kindle version pre-ordered. My mom ordered the audiobook. So I'm set. I'm probably going to do one of these videos on Onyx Storm because I just genuinely fucking love this series. Stay tuned for Iron Flame. Should come out in a couple weeks. Fingers crossed. Subscribe if you want to see Iron Flame. Comment all your thoughts, feelings, roasts of Fourth Wing. I'd love to know what you think. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Yay!